We're going live.
Oh, heck.
I just got done. How loud am I? Am I loud enough? Never tell. Sometimes I'm too loud. Just finished watching Zelf on the Shelf live stream. They said one or two kind of based thing.
Oh, yeah? What were their base takes?
Not super based, but they said they don't see why idiot commies or socialists get mad at low-level landlords, because those are just good working people.
Ooh,
So
that'll get you excommunicated.
they're not fully down for killing the kulaks. But
It's real. It's a suspiciously bourgeois take.
Yeah, well, all their takes are. But that was the only real base take. But I don't know. They went in on for a minute on Jordan Peterson. Man,
They always do.
there wasn't very much this week. Yeah, did the Lynn put out something? I didn't even.
There was a Larson one that came out, but
what's up, Christopher? Yeah, I just barely saw that one. I haven't watched it.
I haven't watched it. I'm sure it's full of dumb shit, but it's just talking about Mormons editing some books or whatever.
Did you watch it?
No, I just saw the title.
Banjo time. It's not in tune, but I've been learning. You ever see the old Robin Williams Popeye? I've been learning that.
What am I? Some sort of doctor of oil? Maybe not, but I know autism alone. What am I? Some sort of physicist?
It's Harry Nielsen now.
Well, I ain't no physicist, but I know what really suits me. So what am I? I'm Popeye, the sailor. And I am what I am, and I am what I am, what I am, what I am, and I am. And I got a lot of muscle, and I only got for 9. I never hurt nobody, and I never tell a lie. And I rock to the bottom, to the bottom, to the top. That's the way it is until the day that I drop. What am I? I am what I am. I'm Popeye.
Yeah. It gets in this wild part.
I'm Popeye the sailor. Popeye was
no.
Popeye the sailor. Popeye the sailor. Popeye the sailor. I am what I am, and I am what I am. I am what I am.
Can't remember. It's been a week. Been more than a week. Anyway. Something around there. I can't remember it. It's got a lot of chords to it. Like it rips off into the Popeye stuff at the end. Yeah.
Ooh, look! First recommended video for me is Mr. Plinkett's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull review.
Yeah. Have you watched that yet?
I've never watched the movie. I'm pretty sure I watched his review of it, but I've never watched.
You've never seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
No, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh.
I saw the first 3.
And you're looking at the old one.
Yeah.
No, like just the old red letter media one.
I'm not even looking. It just popped up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It senses us.
I know it. Well, I've been watching.
I've not seen
Indiana Jones.
I'm not seen any of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skullish stuff ever.
I worked at the movie theater when it came out.
What year was that?
Like 2008, I think.
Is that what
or 9?
Was?
I'm pretty sure. I worked at the theater from like 2008 to 2010.
I remember just kind of being out of it so entirely whenever the Crystal Skull one dropped that I just did not care and I wasn't going to do it. And
yeah, 2008 is when it came out. I remember it was funny because
been that long.
It's been that long, and we all joked about.
I thought it was longer.
How he was way too old to be Indiana Jones again.
Yeah, even then.
And it was like 15 years ago.
Well, like a lot of things, I think Mr. Plinkett pretty well hits the nail on the head with that, because like he doesn't hate it as much as he hates most of the stuff he reviews. You know, he's actually got a large section where he, points out a lot of solid stuff it does. But yeah, no, like there's nothing glaring really about it except for the actual plot. But it's just a lot of really dumb filmmaking choices.
I heard about that refrigerator scene.
Yeah.
But secondly, at that time frame, I remember I was not down with Shia LaBeouf being the one to carry it on. I was like, Shia LaBeouf, no.
That's because that's funny. Like that's one of the few things he praises. Plinkett says about Shia LaBeouf is like, lay off him, guys. He's a decent actor. He's a natural actor.
I think Shia. Since then, I've thought that he's a pretty good actor. But at that time frame, I was still like, why does everybody have such a hard on for this kid? Like it seems like Spielberg just wants him and everything, and I don't get it. And
he's definitely a good actor.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunate that there was no soul in that movie. Apparently, I still never seen it.
It's another one where like I watched it, I forgot most of it, and I've watched the Plinkett review of it half a dozen times. I enjoy that, but the actual movie was just. Man.
I know. I've watched the Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars prequels way more than I've watched the Star Wars prequels. In fact,
I watch them at least once a year, probably.
I recently tried to go back and rewatch the Star Wars prequels because, like, now that everybody hates the sequels, there's a lot of people trying to be like, see, the prequels weren't so bad, were they? And I was like, I'm pretty sure they were, but I haven't seen most of them, like, since they came out.
They were very different kinds of bad.
They were, but I got through the Phantom Menace, and it had some decent parts. It wasn't the worst thing, but I got through like 10 minutes of Attack of the Clones, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing this. I hate this movie.
Like I ground my way through. In fact, I'm not even see that's the thing about how forgettable these movies are. I can't remember if I even finished them or not, but I watched the Harry Potter Dumbledore, the whatever it is, the Young Adventures of Young Dumbledore, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
The magical creatures.
You watched those?
Well, so like that thing's like I don't even know if I finished it. Like, and that thing's like between the first one and the second one, again, it's just kind of like, okay, like it's wizard stuff, and it's pretty forgettable. Like I like the actor. I kind of like how he does that role. I
fantastic. Like Jude Law's great.
Is that who plays the guy? Like he's obviously supposed to be like neuroatypical of some kind.
Johnny Depp plays Grindelwald
in the.
I haven't watched any of those.
Well, I think they recast him for. I think there's.
Yeah, no,
three of those movies now.
Who was it that? Yeah, no, see, that's just it. And I remember, like, the first one, I was like, oh, that's Johnny Depp. Huh. I guess they paid him enough to be in this. But, like, yeah, they're just forgettable. Whereas, like, I mean, between yesterday and today, I've just sort of half watched the first two Indiana Jones movies. And, it's like everything there was right where it was where I left it in my childhood. Like, I remember those movies. But like shit that I watch, like that thing's like, and the last time I watched those was probably the 90s. I mean, granted, I watched them 100 times between childhood and the 90s, but yeah, the movies, like I mean, the Star Wars trilogy, the new one, I barely remember. The thing I remember is not remembering.
I remember Rise of Skywalker because it was amazing. It was the most fun I've ever had in a movie theater.
Are you reading the tweets, the Disney sponsored tweets?
No, it sounds like it, but it was. I mean that in like I love watching bad movies, and I snuck a flask in. At the like there were so many points in that movie where I just like belly laughed at the screen, like as soon as you get that line that Palpatine's back somehow, or the
Yeah,
when
that's
Hux turns
so,
and like
I mean,
basically looks at the camera and says, "I'm the spy."
Palpatine
the-
being back is such a smack in the face to
That was
Vader's sacrifice.
stupid.
Beyond stupid,
Yeah.
it's his sacrifice is gone. It's just
No, I know.
Yeah. It
Um,
totally undoes everything.
Well, and
But
it does the thing where he was like he's promising Anakin that like he can revive his wife, like he can heal her or raise her from the dead or whatever by saying it has the dark side of the Force has many I don't know, whatever
the
that's
power to cheat death.
yeah, basically it's some may deem unnatural, but then and you're supposed to view that later on, like it doesn't work out. So you're like, oh, it was a false promise. Of course it was a false promise. He was promising him too much. And then you go to Rise of Skywalker, like, oh no, he really can raise people from the dead.
Yeah. The Plinkett review of that, not the Plinkett review, the regular RLM review of that. One of my favorite moments in that is when Mike talks about how, like, he wishes Netflix, the streaming services need to have the old man mode, where it just slows it down so you can actually follow the plot. Because that's the thing with that movie where it's like, the specific thing you use is like, this magic token will get you onto the Imperial cruiser. Because everything happens so freaking quickly that like you just can't even keep track of it. Like, and I'm not a dumb guy, but that movie, like, it should have been. I mean, first they should have just new script altogether. But like, if you wanted to tell that story, you need 3 movies for that dumb story.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
let
it
things
was
we got a
so.
Harry,
It
we
was
got a
so
Harry Potter
fast.
expert here.
We
telling
do.
us
That's
all
right.
stuff. Troy, I don't know if you want to
That's
say
who it
this,
was.
but
Mads
I was
Mikkelsen.
notified of something on Facebook of what today is too. For you. I don't know if you want me to say it live on the air, but Depp played Grindelwald and Bad Guy. He was replaced by Mickelson after the Depp drama, and
that's right. Yeah, Billy Redmayne, whatever his name is, Harry Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne. I remember him because he's a transphobe because he played the Danish girl and he's not trans.
So on the screen right now, here's Kevin. We got everybody. On the screen right here, Film Threat has been doing a live trial. They've been putting Disney Star Wars on trial. They've got about eight parts into it, and they I'll show you. They sit down and even do like a judge thing and everything. This is Chris Gore, who's an actual, like, he's a critic he's already seen Indiana Jones. He saw Indiana Jones at Cannes because he's a level of critic that gets invited to that sort of stuff. But he's turned on the critics. He's one of the he's on Nerdrotic all the time, but he's kind of a very, very mainstream critic who is one of the few mainstream critics who's turned on all the crap storytelling.
You'd imagine that some of them would see how profitable that is. Like,
yeah,
like he's
getting crazy popular because of it.
I know. So I'm saying, like, if a mainstream critic all of a sudden starts going on Nerdrotic, they're going to get a lot of coverage. I feel like
they're always, because Nerdrotic calls them the access medium, and it's because they're always afraid of losing that access.
Oh yeah.
And but these have been pretty good. They get different people to try to defend and then try to take down Disney Star Wars, and Chris Gore plays the judge in the middle. They bring a lot of different people, a lot of Nerdrotic people, and then some other people around who defend it. I think some of the people trying to defend it they couldn't find very many to try to defend it, so some of the defenders are playing the devil's advocates.
Yeah, well, one of them, he actually had the best defense I've ever heard of this when he's talking about the blatant misuse of the extended universe. They call it the EU in this, and he says, "Look what they did with the movies that they had. I hate them so much. Thank God they declared the extended universe non-canon, so it's just kind of safely in its own little." I thought that was a pretty decent argument. Now
that's kind of funny irony that if you swap it for the European Union.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna pull this. The Babylon Bee had this little joke here. Let me send it to you. Dang it, man. Yeah. Come on, stuff. Stop freezing. Hollywood concerned as they're running out of beloved movie heroes to turn into sad, pathetic old failures.
Did you hear the Phoebe Waller-Bridge explanation of that? How she's talking about how she she's the one that pitched that idea to the director. It's like this exciting idea that he'd be a sad, broken alcoholic, like whose marriage is
what's the
flat.
fetish with
And
that?
Well, I don't know. And she's like, I pitched that idea to him and he loved it. I'm like, did you not realize that this isn't a new idea? Because
It's
I'm
the
pretty
same
sure it's part of the
trope?
same idea you specifically had with James Bond, right?
Mhm. It's the same
Oh, I
trope and
forgot.
everything.
That's right. She
It's
just
the same.
Wonder who they're
Yeah.
gonna who they're gonna get to take over for Happy Gilmore's spot.
the girl James Bond thing did happen.
So there was a
That was real
female.
life.
Not
There's a
yet.
female 007 in the last book. 'Cause
In
he
the
was no
last
longer.
Okay, yeah.
version.
So in the last one, so
007.
that did happen.
She wasn't
Just- yeah, it's
James
like-
Bond, but she was his
Yeah.
replacement.
But yeah, but okay.
Okay, so one of the things I want to go into here is Red Letter Media covered the Temple of Doom, the Temple of Feminist Doom, and I thought it was kind of funny making some connections, and I'm going to show you what the connections are. But that really is, I'm not making a joke, that is a feminist Temple of Doom. The cult of Kali, the goddess Kali, is the main goddess of theosophical feminism. And I'm going to show you that sort of stuff. And I think it might have been a based dig done by George Lucas. Because, okay, so think about this. So they're talking about it right here. Listen to this.
I love this movie.
Wasn't this movie made when like everyone was having their big divorce, their
Yes.
big first divorce? I know Spielberg ended up with Kate Capshaw, who
Right.
stars in this.
Yes, Lucas was definitely getting divorced, and he admits that he was in a dark place.
So one of the things about that is, what's her name? The editor of Star Wars, Marcia Lucas, his wife, she's a feminist. And she ran around with people like Gloria Steinem and that sort of stuff. And this whole thing is based off of taking down the cult of Kali, the Thuggees. And I'm going to show you some stuff about that. These guys kind of notice it, but they just brush over it here. So
I'll be right back.
I want to make it the dark chapter. It's going to be about an Indian death cult. And what's funny is that Spielberg was like, I just didn't care about this movie at all. I didn't care about making it.
So there's that, and there's here it is.
So George came up with this idea that it was going to be about the Kali cult, and I had never done anything like that before. So I kind of kept nodding my head. Well, if you guys think that's a good idea, sure, I'll go along with it.
Well, Lucas said that he didn't want to do. That's why he made this.
So think about this. He's going through a divorce from a feminist, and he's got this movie where he's taking out the cult of Kali, right? And all throughout it, what's this film famous for with the woman? She is the most needy, whiny, cryy woman.
Yeah.
She won't reach through bugs to help them, you know.
She's a
She won't
dope.
eat the bugs. Everything's just screaming at everything. You
She's
know?
incapable of helping herself.
She's incapable of anything. She's a true damsel in distress. Just can't do anything by herself.
Because Marion Ravenwood in the first movie, like she punches people, she gets herself out of scraps. You know,
Yeah.
she's like in the 1930s is like totally self-reliant, and yeah, in the second one they make the main female interest just a total dope.
She's a total dope, and they're going to take out this feminist cult, right? And so here, let me back that up here. Hold on 1 second. Do. Yeah, man.
I didn't even know about this. Like, you made this connection, and it was news to me. But like, even if you go to the Wikipedia page, there's a section on modern or worship in the Western world, and even mentions like it's particularly popular amongst feminists.
So that Thuggee cult, the term thug.
The
Thug.
thugs. I
comes
knew
from
about Thuggee. Yeah.
And they really were a cult, and they really did single out men to kill men, and they really did exist, and they really were one of the most murderous cults of all time. So people say it's like the cult, the movie's insensitive or something like that, except it's all true. Like it's all real. There even
Yeah.
really
Well,
was. They never saw
and-
something like that, but there was a rumored Temple of Doom and all that. Sort of
You
stuff.
know what else is, hilarious and ironic about this is that the reason that there isn't a Thuggee cult anymore is that they were stamped out in a program by the evil colonialist British Empire. The
Yep.
British Empire sent soldiers into India to destroy the cult of Kali and the Thuggees that were a problem all over India.
So this is Rachel Wilson. She runs around with Jay Dyer. She's written a book on witchcraft and feminism and witchcraft and how it goes all the way back to Mary Wollstonecraft and you know, all the ladies back in the early 1800s and the stuff that they all get into, theosophical witch goddess stuff, the stuff we've been talking about. And here's her talking about this.
So we have the first cover of Ms. Magazine having this bloodthirsty, and she's a man-killing goddess.
Yeah.
I left that out. She wears a garland of men's heads around her neck. She has a waistband that has men's arms, and she would kill men on the battlefield and drink their blood. And there was a whole cult devoted to her in India for hundreds of years. That was one of the most murderous cults of all time. And they would only kill men on her behalf because she didn't want women killed. The only acceptable sacrifice was kill the men.
Right.
Now, this is on the very first cover of the very first mainstream feminist magazine in America, which was marketed to housewives everywhere. Right. And Gloria Steinem becomes the face of Shout Your Abortion. She becomes the face of the women's movement. And her grandmother and mother were both theosophists as well, which I thought was super interesting. So this religious underpinning and the
So let's take a look at some of the imagery that was around Kali, that goddess. Hold on a second. La 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 la. So here's the cover of well, first I'll show actual pictures of Kali. Where did it go? So that's the goddess Kali right there. Stamping on a man, stamping him down. And so super duper interesting. There's more of her. Check that out.
It's not just a man too. It's like one of the more
it's like one of the gods.
One of the more like the more prominent gods in Hinduism, Shiva.
Yep. And so
so she's always got her jackboot on him on his neck.
And so here is Gloria Steinem. 40 years of Ms. Magazine. We're looking at Ms. Magazine, more than a magazine and a movement. Ms. Magazine, and who's there on the cover of the very first Ms. Magazine?
That really ties it all together.
It's Kali right there. And look, there's a baby inside of Kali right there. And you know, ties in all that old like theosophist stuff and all that sort of stuff. But what I think is more funny about it is I saw somebody saying in the comments is I think George Lucas, so much of what George Lucas does is interweaving stuff from secret sex magic, sex cult stuff. All the Indiana Jones stuff is obviously somebody who's delved into Kwaku type stuff, right? He's obviously, Dan Aykroyd gets into, they mentioned him in Red Letter Media. Dan Aykroyd's spent a lifetime getting into the occultish stuff. That's one of the reasons he did like all the Ghostbusters and all these sorts of things. And he really has like his vodka company where he sells vodka out of crystal skulls and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. They're not coming from a place of not knowing about this stuff. They're not coming from a place not knowing what message they were sending there. You know, they knew that Steinem and all these sorts of people were getting into their Kali cult, sex magic, blood cult, whatever stuff. And that they were tying that all in, and it was getting mixed in with the CIA. Steinem was a freaking CIA asset. This is one of the stuff that's some of the crap that just will melt your brain. And she was brought into the New Yorker to start doing this Ms. Magazine crap. And she was she wasn't even like the brightest or best, you know, she's just kind of like the perfect face for the thing. And beyond all that, I don't think it was subliminal by George. I think George knew what he was doing. Like, I think he knew what he was taking a pee on right there. I mean, he obviously, a lot of the stuff in the Jedi stuff and all the, that obviously borrows from a bunch of occultish history and all that sorts of stuff. And then this one here, his wife was a feminist. She was getting in and running around these guys. They knew about all this stuff. That whole entire movie is going after that cult. Is just there killing men. And Indiana Jones, the ultimate male figure, comes in and screws up their fun. And in the meantime, saves the most dainty of female, everything that Anita Sarkeesian claims Princess Peach is and isn't at all, the damsel in distress. But who wins in the end, folks? Who wins in the end? Along comes Phoebe Waller-Cates or whatever her name is. Who's lasts out? What was the rules that we said about stuff that the 3 rules of thing that any organization that's not conservative leaning must go left leaning or something like that. What was it? Robert Conquest's 3 rules. Indiana Jones is now Luke Skywalker getting pushed out by the lamest. Chris Gore says that she's the most unlikable character he's ever watched on screen. And that's that mainstream person. He says she is so unlikable, I cannot even believe it.
Well, there's this weird sort of tonal dissonance that I've noticed in a lot of projects lately, and that's what I picture happening with her, right? Because it seems like for like the last decade or two, like everything has been sort of leaning toward meta humor, and when you throw a modern meta humor aficionado into what is supposed to be a very sincere world, it just feels out of place. I saw this when there's like these, so 2 different examples that are contrasting to each other is when you throw a comedian into something, like you throw Bill Burr had a lot of episodes in Breaking Bad, right? But he didn't play Bill Burr. He actually did a decent job. But then you get, I watched all of Kenobi, and it was terrible for a lot of reasons. But one of them was they had Kumail Nanjiani. And as a stand-up, I love him. He's actually pretty good. But it felt so out of place there. It felt like it takes you out of
jarring.
Yeah, it takes you out of the world because it's this. So it feels like it's this weird meta humor almost coming from him. Like he's somebody. He's somebody
it's the Joss Whedon. It's the Joss Whedon humor.
It's like somebody from my world in this other world, and it.
Yeah, like Bill Burr in Mandalorian. That was also another one. And it's not like he did a bad job or anything. Just kind of weird. It's like, that's Bill Burr.
So I just imagine I've watched like the first episode of Fleabag, wasn't really interested in it. So maybe I heard it's pretty good, but so I feel like seeing that person with Indiana Jones, which right now is like a relic of my childhood, is like that feels like it would take me out of the world of Indiana Jones.
There's some sort of weird thing where like they're purposefully casting. Everybody says they like all have like ex-wife energy. Like they're perfectly casting these women that are just unlikable on every level. Like they talk about, I haven't even seen it yet. Sorry for spoilers, but I've heard them already, that he comes across her. She's his nephew or niece or something like that. And his son's been killed. His son, the Shia LaBeouf character was killed in Nam or something like that. And
Short Round killed himself.
Yeah. And so he's teaching a class, and at the back of the class, there's a girl who knows all the answers to the questions better than he knows the answers to the questions. And she can even fix his Falcon, better too. Wait, oh no, that's the other movie.
I bypassed.
I had to look up who Phoebe Waller-Bridges is, and I realized that she was Fembot from Solo.
Yeah.
She was a writer. That's why we brought up 007 earlier, because she was a writer on 007 who suggested female 007.
Next, she's got a Laura Croft Tomb Raider series that she's gonna direct. Might even star in. That's the rumor.
Yeah, well, where the whole idea comes.
Just trying to imagine, like, how do you make Tomb Raider so that it's feminist friendly?
Well, I mean, already
like you're gonna end up with something that's not Tomb Raider.
I know
it won't be about like a super confident, super. I mean, they'll have to tear it all apart.
You know, we're remaking the video game Leisure Suit Larry, but through a critical consciousness.
I always imagine like what the opposite world of this stuff would be, and it's not necessarily like it doesn't have to be men, but if we go with men, it's not just like saying, oh, we brought it up before. Ethan Van Sciver started that comic, which was that he got the rights to Rainbow Bright and made it Rainbow the Brute. And the whole joke of it is like he's a murderous killing machine, but he's a pretty good dad. You know, and
the funny part is
that sounds like Red
is...
Death from Venture Brothers.
The funny part is all of this stuff that like she's this mainstream person who is doing all of the shit that we make fun of Neil Breen for doing. You know, like because we know he's fucking nuts. Every time like his character's like, oh, also,
I can do everything.
I have superpowers. Like, I remember watching it the first time. I didn't think I'd be taken off guard by anything because I knew he was a super hacker. I knew he was a ladies' man and an internationally acclaimed best-selling author. I did not see the superpowers coming. And all of a sudden, he could teleport. But
he had rocks. He had
that's
rocks.
That's what she's doing. Like, she's just all of the things. She has no flaws except for that she's a huge asshole and she's the female version of a womanizer, I guess.
But what I'm thinking, like, so I was watching a Zelf on the Shelf earlier, and they started ranting about Jordan Peterson, right? Because of course they just can't handle Jordan Peterson. Nobody can handle Jordan Peterson if you're left leaning at all. The equivalent to this stuff wouldn't be like casting Ryan Gosling in everything. It would be like casting Jordan Peterson in everything. Like we've cast the thing into you that is the reverse of likable. It's everything you dislike. Here, take it and suck it down and like it and love it. And your person dies, you know, so what's some movie that women love? We're going to redo Legally Blonde, but Jordan Peterson's going to come in and show her she doesn't know shit. He's going to push her out of her job, and he's going to take it over by the end. And she's going to fade away because she's depressed. And
statistically speaking, women are more comfortable in the kitchen. Honestly, you'd be more. You ought to go. It's like, yeah, them eggs are drying up.
Yeah. Yep. And she and she gets she leaves the profession, and but she can't have a happy ending, or she can't even help him. She leaves depressed and sad because he's right and kills herself or something. And then he takes over her practice saying, well, I'll take you from here, you know. And, that's the equivalent, you know. You got to think of like what the real equivalent is going on there. It's just such like a dumping on and they do it again and again and again and again. Like, stop and think about the films. Even the films you might have liked or thought were good did the same thing. We brought it up before, but that last Wolverine movie was the same thing. That last Mad Max movie was the same thing. That Wonder Woman movie was the same thing. It's all just the guy's got to die and kill himself and fall off the planet and move on and be replaced with a young upcoming woman. The Terminators, it was the same thing. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge goes, well, I got no idea. The He-Man series, that's what it was, the same thing. You know, every single one of them. If we go through all the Marvels.
Terminator series keeps trying to do that, like, unsuccessfully. It keeps us not working. Like, they tried it with Emilia Clarke, of all people. And that movie, like, I still kind of want to watch it because it sounds like...
I saw that one.
It sounds like it's easily the worst Terminator movie ever. Like, I listen to all the spoilers and stuff like that, and it just totally undoes the first movie. It's just her, like, going back, like, Kyle Reese lands in the timeline that he lands in, and then she goes back in time to save Kyle Reese, and then John Connor's the bad guy out of nowhere, and what the fuck is this? But Dark Fate didn't do well either. So they keep trying to do this, making the new female protagonist. They just can't. They had a great female protagonist in the first two films.
Yeah.
And then James Cameron's a dick and couldn't handle being divorced from her, so he killed her off screen.
No, that's so dumb. It's mind blowing how badly they handled all these. Like, you can say that it was too tall of an order. All of it was too tall of an order, but they did the opposite of good. Like, it's like they did everything they possibly could to ruin it. Not just like, they couldn't live up to those. No, you did everything exactly wrong. I mean, that Star Wars thing that they never got Luke, Leia, and Han back together once, and they were all
that's
there.
bizarre.
Hey, what on earth were you thinking? That's one of the things they're putting on trial in that series. Just
it was like Han. Like I would have been afraid if I were around when, like episode 5 and 6 came out. I remember I would have been afraid that they were just gonna make Han have the same exact character arc over and over again, but they didn't. Like he was the scoundrel that became a hero in the first one, and then he had different things to do in the next 2 movies. That he didn't have to relearn that in the way that Finn did in the recent trilogy. But then, like, you go to episode 7, and that's Han's arc again. He's the scoundrel that left his wife and daughter, and he's just out there doing his dumb smuggling stuff, and then he has a change of heart at the end, just like he did in the first one.
Yeah, but then it turns out all those years later, he decided to go back to smuggling. Like by the time you come across him again, he's back to smuggling and he's dropped all his.
They're all in the same place. Leia's still leading a rebellion. Han's still a smuggler. Nobody advanced.
Yeah, they got to move them all
Except
back.
Luke's different because he's regressed.
Yeah, Luke's now depressive and sad and wants to kill himself and doesn't want to. Like the icon of all hope and the thing that sees good through all darkness has given up on all things, and he just wants to roll over and die and drink booby milk. Man. You guys have been watching anything else good?
Oh, The Flash looks really good.
Sarcasm.
Do you have that?
Definitely sarcasm.
I'll pull up your meme on that one.
Like what a thing to say, guys. If this bombs, we might not get more superhero movies. No.
So this is a guy on Twitter saying, for the people celebrating the Flash movie bombing, I hope you know that this will hurt all future comic book movie projects. Financiers are going to be way less likely to back comic book movies in general when one like this does so poorly. And they're oops, where'd it go? Where's the words in the middle?
Oh, that was a message. It wasn't a picture.
Oh, yeah. So you're saying just you had the crying face and you said, "Oh, my movie with a." I mean, what's all the stuff Ezra Miller's been caught doing?
My movie with the kidnapping rapist do well. Now they won't hire any more kidnapping racists for superhero nostalgia bait movies. That's the thing with they did it. It was cheesy, Spider-Man, No Way Home or whatever, but they did it kind of well, you know. It did feel like a more complex version of a story of me playing with my toys when I was 6, but they did all right with it, and it was kind of fun, you know.
I'm pretty sure some of my toys.
I knew it. I knew that as soon as that was successful, I was like, oh, everyone else is gonna try this now. And like Doctor Strange tried it with the Multiverse of Madness. That they had that Patrick Stewart come back as Professor X, which was like, this movie sucks around all of this, so who cares about it? And then they have Michael Keaton coming back and George Clooney as Batman.
As the Batman.
All of them, when they do that thing where they got to open up the universe and make it multi-universe, it's such an obvious like.
I know, because
the
actually
only answer out of their problem of the recasting and rewriting stories, and so
the story that's based on is actually pretty good. And I never read the comics, but there is an animated movie called Flashpoint Paradox, and it's this cool. It is Barry Allen goes back in time, saves his mom. It changes the future and the past weirdly, and there's like an alternate version where like Bruce Wayne was killed instead of his parents, and his dad becomes Batman, and he's a less refined, grizzled, murderous Batman, and he's a cool character, and I would rather have them had him than Michael Keaton come back. And they have, instead of Supergirl, they like Superman crashed somewhere else and the government detained him, and so he was like kind of insane, you know, when they find him. And it was a cool movie, it was a cool concept, and it sounds like they botched it just to pull in nostalgia.
Well, they cast a new Superman, and
Yeah, I saw.
they somehow, as far as we know, he's a straight white guy, which is kind of mind blowing.
I was actually
Which makes
shocked.
you wonder if the old wokeness is drying up there.
I thought that Elliot Page was already.
I would pay $1,000.
They're not going with that
to watch that movie. I would.
Yeah.
What I was curious about, because I rewatched the original Indiana Jones, and I was reading about its release and all that, and it kind of made me wonder: when was the last time that you guys can think of there was a movie that like with Indiana Jones, like apparently like a week before release, nobody knew it existed, and they did like a little bit of a media push before it came out, and it had like a very modest opening. And then it like took a couple of weeks before word of mouth started to build up, and then it ended up being in theaters for like a year and being the top grossing movie forever and all this crap. And I just wondered, like, because like it almost never happens that way. Like movies come out, they have their best weekend, and then they drop. But like this idea that like something came out, nobody's heard of it, you start hearing about it, and then weeks after release is when it starts actually filling theaters. That just doesn't even happen anymore. Like,
last one I can remember is Napoleon Dynamite. I did that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, Napoleon Dynamite. That was one that kind of just came out, and then people started buzzing over. Yeah, but yeah, everything is first off. Like, I mean, with so many of these movies, especially with the leaks and everything, like everybody knows the story before it happens. People are fighting about the plot before it's even been released, which is always nuts.
Yeah. So, affirmative action. It's conquered.
Affirmative movie.
Affirmative action. The Supreme Court.
That's racist.
Let's check in on the Midnight Mormons talking about it live. Supreme Court agrees with Russell M. Nelson.
Racism. And Blumenbach propagated a lot of bad ideas. And as we
I have no idea. This is actually
and
live.
that's basically the way it's been.
Let's see what's going on live.
Oh, this is live. Live.
Ooh.
Sniping.
Trying to shame us into it. It's a thing where I'm saying we can afford to right this wrong. Let's do it. And here's a creative solution that we can use to do it that is really a win-win situation.
Okay. I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't know.
Get the way this stuff's worded. Of course, like all the news articles say stuff like, "Oh, this is a setback." How will black people ever go to college ever again?
Yeah.
We're not racist.
Wait, do they think they're too dumb or something?
That's literally like what it sounds like if you listen to all the people freaking out about it on Twitter.
Decided that they're dumb. Don't you know how this works?
They decided that they're dumb and that Asians are mean.
Yeah, like literally, there's no other way to take it that they sit there and think that it's the end of black people in college if that's the stuff. But of course, Harvard says this. Today, the Supreme Court delivered its decision in Students for Fair Admissions versus President and Fellows of Harvard College. The court held that Harvard's college admission system does not comply with the principles of Equal Protection Clause embodied in Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. The court also ruled that college and universities may consider in admissions decisions an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise. And this is the workaround. I already saw Berkeley and people in California talking about
Berkeley.
That they're going to put weighted admission to your letter that you write in. And if you write in your letter, what was that person who wrote in their letter the Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter?
Oh yeah, I remember.
You know what? They're going to have to call this kind of new system of systematizing racism. We'll have to call it James Crow. This is the new James Crow system. Dr. James Crow.
Dr. James Crow.
I don't know how you could. I don't know how you could look at the affirmative action practices and like honestly assume that they didn't infringe on the whole. Like, I don't know how you could look at them and not see that they're discrimination. I guess that's when you get all Ibram X. Kendi and say that we need to fight discrimination with discrimination.
That's the thing. It's like,
yeah, that's totally what it is.
if the Nazis were right about all of their weird conspiracy theories, they weren't, be clear, they were wrong. If the Nazis were right, then everything they did is justified, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, if these people are right, they're wrong. But if systemic racism, the way it exists, then everything they do is including this incredibly nakedly racist shit they do. Like, that's how that works. They believe in their crazy conspiracy theory, so they're Batman saving poor black people from systemic racism. All of those broken-necked thugs are just, that's okay. I'm fighting evil.
Troy says if you're not sure what Cardin is talking about, don't worry, he never knows either. Should leave a comment on the live
I
stream.
actually listened to the couple of hours that they did responding to the some anti-Mormon pastor. And I don't know.
Did we comment on it last time on this?
No, because it was only in the last couple of days. I mean, they all sound the same.
What should I say?
The Midnight Mormons. Well, I keep commenting
Cardone.
That Cardin, because one thing that drives me nuts is Cardin keeps talking about these woke liberals, where it's like, no, Cardin, the woke are anti-liberal. Like,
that's a pretty common. It's kind of a boomerish mistake.
Yeah, it's a boomer thing.
Pretty common mistake.
Well, then that's for all the shitting he does on boomers. He should know better than to make that really common mistake. But yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying.
Yes, I know what you are saying.
Yo, dog. That's
and also Los Angeles.
What
LA
says is a savage. Yo, dog, that's savage. That's so savage.
Say that's savage. Know what I'm saying?
I find like
that's so savage.
You know what Cardin is? Cardin is Los Angeles Napoleon Dynamite.
yeah, because
Napoleon Dynamite is Idaho
exactly
Napoleon Dynamite.
Idaho.
Cardin is the Los Angeles version of Napoleon Dynamite.
Cardin is exactly California Mormon. Yeah. I like the California Mormons on my mission. They were different. Like California Mormons were different than the Utah Mormons. But yeah, they were all exactly this. So you didn't get to hang out with any of them.
All the California missionaries were everywhere else. They were all in Texas and Utah.
Yeah, they were in general more chill and funnier and better.
I always assumed that the whole Utah Mormon thing was somewhat of a myth, they're not that different or whatever. And I always
still maintain that it is, but
I always kind of assume that that if there is any difference, then the Eastern Idaho Mormons are probably pretty much the same. But I don't know. On my mission, I found out you guys are fucking weird.
I'm gonna leave this comment there. Here. Yo, dog, that's so savage. You know what I'm saying? There you go.
You're making fun of his speech impediment, you asshole.
That's a California speech impediment.
Forrest has it right to woke equals liberal equals atheist equals anti. That is a major beef I have with Cardin, is he just makes no differentiation. He just attacks everything with the same dumb arguments. That's the thing about this thing with the anti-Mormon pastor, where it's like, you guys are making the same types of arguments in your defense that he's making, and it's kind of nuts. Like, and even in the podcast, one of his guests pointed out that he was being directly hypocritical, and he's kind of like, well, yeah, and then he just moved on and kept doing it. But
well, he said a couple times that he was doing the spirit of contention, but whatever, I'm not a prophet or something like that. But oh yeah, remember this? Let's see if we can.
We got some membies.
Well, it's not that far away.
I memby.
You memby? Hold on here.
Hold on to your butts. You guys remember that one?
There was
Samuel L.
Hold on to your butts. She was also in Star Wars. The end of my first porn magazine. Let's see here. A sad moment on Wednesday. The Washington-based magazine National Geographic that has surveyed science, and the natural world for 135 years. Paid off all of its last remaining staff writers. Had 12
So
million
what's that mean? They're not
writers.
saying the magazine is folding. Is it going to go back to
Using
taking
AI?
pictures of
Maybe,
people?
I don't know, but there's no writers. So like, I mean, maybe they're just photographers or something.
But because obviously their writing was shit. Like, I mean, they are one of the worst examples of a venerable institution getting overtaken by woke.
Wait, what are you talking about? Wait, what's this? National Geographic Gender Revolution. If we take that picture, I'm gonna go take a picture of a guy.
I just know that I commented, like, because their stuff would pop up on my Facebook feed all the time, and I just always commented National Socialist Geographic. Because that's what they remind me of now. It's all fucking race shit.
Yeah, I don't know if it means if it's folding, or maybe they're just saying that they're going to use AI writers now or something. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it never was.
I think they don't even need the photographers anymore. Like, AI, show me a picture of a topless Indonesian peasant. It'll
Did
put it
you
together for you.
know, though, that smoke from the Canada wildfires is increasingly a health risk to black and poor, to the blacks and the poorer U.S. communities?
Oh yeah, because
are those fires still going?
They have bigger lungs than white people.
Don't they know that the court said affirmative action is gone? No more of this stuff. No more disparities. Stop it. Stop it, smog.
Stop disparaging me.
Another thing we can thank the feminists for.
Good job, feminists.
Feministics. Y'all think the wokeness is turning the corner? We brought it up before, but that's kind of one of the things that's happening here. Same as
I kind of feel like Pride Month tried to be really as boisterous this year as it was last year, and I just
that's what this cartoon.
It kind of felt like nobody cared.
Here it is.
There I was, innocently
Pride
chatting
Month that
with
wasn't.
8-year-olds about sex online. When no, what's happening? No! Starbucks! I can always count on you. One latte, please.
You think we're gonna give coffee to a gay? Gay even faster? I don't think so.
No!
I cast thee out, sodomite!
Somebody, please help me. A brand hasn't told me I'm special in 4 minutes.
I don't personally endorse every sexual taste you have.
People have other things to do in life than pander to you.
No! Stop it! Stop it!
I'm not gonna let you show porn to my child!
That's the real page
the real
right there.
data.
Yeah. Except it's blacked out where
No!
Yeah!
No! No! You turned me straight! I wasn't able to show porn to your child, and I'm straight now!
Is that? I guess that's the new one.
Yeah, just
that's the
came
best
out.
one since Democrat Man. That's Democrat Man is the one that made me laugh hardest in the last year or two.
Pull
You remember that one?
Yeah. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's the guy who goes back in time.
Yeah, because there's a little boy is in help, and because he has a
I'll pull
single
it up.
parent home in a depressed neighborhood, and so Democrat Man fixes it.
Yeah.
He saves him.
Yeah.
Am I all weird and slow digital to you guys, or is that just my screen feedback?
Once or twice to me, but I not.
Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah, that's what happens when I play Civilization while I stream.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I'll stop.
I tried.
That's it.
Yeah.
There was one flag in my neighbor's yard this year. Last year, there were many big difference in the vibe. That's kind of the question, and I don't know. Democrat man.
Have no fear! Democrat Man is here!
Democrat Man, I knew you would come save me.
What seems to be the problem?
I'm poor and have a rough family situation.
I know just the trick.
Oh boy! Where did you go?
I traveled back in time 12 years and had your mom get an abortion. All in a G's work for Democrat man. Get that camera out of my face.
Become a member.
I mean, that's what they say. That's
Yeah.
literally their argument. Is like, if we don't let them have abortions, they'll have poor children.
Or they might have Down syndrome.
They'll have poor
children.
minority children.
Do you ever see that article talking about how Iceland cured Down syndrome?
What?
Yeah, they cured it by abortion.
Fucking kill him. It's just anytime it's just so rare that a
Right,
kid
'cause
with
it's
Down
not-
syndrome is born because they find out. And I'm like, I feel like if my wife was pregnant with a kid and we found out that he had Down syndrome and the doctor was like, okay, would you like to schedule an abortion? I'd want to punch him in the fucking mouth. I'd be like, okay, I'm getting a new doctor.
It's not,
Piss off. No, and they're trying to act like it's a standard of living thing. It's like, hey, have you ever met somebody with Down syndrome?
There
You're
it
like,
is on
hey,
the
you
screen.
probably wish you were dead, right? No.
Well, that actually reminds me of a mission story. It was like, this is a story. It's hard to tell because it makes you sound so insensitive. But it was in church. I was a missionary, and you know how I don't know what it was like for guys in foreign missions, but we would sit in the pew right by the doors in the way back, just in case an investigator came. We'd be the first one to see him and make sure that they got ushered in. And like, we're sitting in the back, and it's sacrament meeting, and it's boring as hell, like it always is. And in the foyer is this kid. Like,
That's the one time I liked it was on my mission, because I was on my mission was go 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 go, and that was the only time I got to chill and like just rest for a bit.
Oh yeah, no, for us, I don't know, because we were in suburbia. It was all just walking around neighborhoods, not talking to anybody. But so we're in the foyer, and like there's like a 14-year-old Down syndrome kid in the foyer, and he's just kicking the wall, kicking the wall, kicking the wall. He's just kicking the wall. And my companion just whispers, "Retards are so happy." And I started laughing so hard that, you know how it is, like the entire congregation turns around, wondering what the hell is wrong with Elder Johnson.
Oh man. It's true though. It do be true.
Last little tail end of the week. We're hitting it hard. One more cup of coffee. One more cup of coffee for the road. Do you want me to do more Bob Dylan impressions, or you guys tell me what to do? I'm your little Jesty today. You say dance, I say how much. You say jump, I say how high. You say smoke, I say how high.
Tanner usually doesn't do them on his own, does he?
Some kind of public.
What?
Tanner? Is that who we're listening to?
Yeah, he's talking about.
Sorry, yeah.
I say how high. Yeah, I got on Jordan Peterson's Twitter just to see what's going on there, and it was a nightmare. I just cannot believe that he's still being hailed as some kind of public intellectual moralist. It's like,
And moralist.
You know what Tanner reminds me of right here? If Justin Bieber had even less talent, like no talent, I should say, like like he's a less interesting Bieber.
Have you never seen his music stuff?
Bieber's?
No,
Tanner's.
Oh,
He's
Tanner.
talking about doing it.
No, I think I know as much Bieber as I know Tanner, though. So that's.
Oh man, we gotta find that video.
Does he do music?
The first song he did was like this. He's like shirtless and like screaming, tries to make it all deep and stuff. Oh, I don't remember. I liked him when he released it, but it was pretty cringe.
So here's a weird connection. More Chris Hanna, Forrest Gump of Mormonism, but he has on a bunch of his videos he wears a plastic cherry shirt and he goes up on the plastic cherries thing and dances.
We know those guys.
The drummer of Plastic Cherries is my old drummer, and hangs out with them and all that sort of stuff. But
it's still such a Charlie Brown thing for me. Is that the closest I ever came and the best I started feeling about a band It's like we had one practice session, and then he has a near divorce marriage crisis.
Oh
and,
yeah, that was
and everything
way back
explodes,
forever
and
when.
yeah, and it's like that's like the closest, like, because the first time I ever got, because 10,000 times you get together with people, like, let's make a band, and you get together and it's like a first date. It's like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. And that was the first time where I'm like, holy shit, I think I can pull this together. Like, we'll see you next Wednesday. Yeah, everything is on hold indefinitely because of family shit.
Yeah.
never came back together for me.
Yep, and so he runs around with them, and like he is always advertising them here on this and that sort of stuff. And my drummer's or my old drummer's the drummer of that band. He was my drummer when I was still playing on here. He only recently left us. And
he is really good drummer.
He's a good drummer. He and I already had a debate because he noticed me dunking on Dan McClellan online. He's like, "What's wrong with Dan McClellan, man?"
Oh Lord.
Nothing. Carry on. Because that guy, the guy's so frustrating to talk to. We can't even bother. Anyway,
like, there are some people that they sort of know what they're talking about. They're at least familiar with opposing arguments and stuff like that. But like, he is to woke as Carden is to atheist, where it's like just everything is a presupposition, everything is misinformed. He's never looked into anything that he pretends that he's talking about. Like, yeah,
McClellan?
It's just that same kind of thing. No, drummer.
Oh, the drummer.
Like,
yeah, the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Was,
I mean, it's just
he was
like they just
impossible.
declare things. Well, I mean, it's like on NPR. Like, every time I make a snarky comment on NPR, I usually, I say something sarcastic about like election denial, and then like every single time they're like, Mueller proved it.
Yeah, like they didn't even...
No, Mueller said there's no evidence, and they're like, excuse me, Mueller specifically proved it that there was evidence. I'm like, no, he said there wasn't.
Yeah, the alternate
that's
reality.
What's in there. And they're like, but he proved that people accused him of it. I'm like, no, that's why there was an investigation.
Oh.
There's no evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy, we got in a knockout, drag down fight, and guess what? It was over. It was over if Michael Jackson was a pedo or not. And the actual fight was about, if you watch Razor Fist's rebuttal to the HBO documentary, which that
was fascinating.
The HBO documentary got sued in England for how much it lied about stuff and like did different things. They lost majorly and that sort of thing. But I'm still somebody who lands on the side of like, I wouldn't leave my kid with Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? But I still think like it's just like the null hypothesis with John DeLynn. It's like, no, there wasn't even enough evidence to go to a grand jury on that stuff.
Yeah.
And the people
I don't know
who
that he's
made
innocent, but I think he's
said
not
the
guilty.
opposite their whole lives, and then suddenly when they had money and they were out money, they flipped their whole thing and made this whole story up. But
the first accuser, they have audio of the dad talking about how we are going to shake down Michael Jackson with this.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you wanted to know if
And
it was
they
a
had just
shakedown, he
been-
said so on tape.
And they'd both just been fired from the estate as like backup dancers or something like that. And so they go and do this, and then they get to a point where in the US you can't have libel with they're not only because they are famous, but also because they're now dead. And they wait till that moment to do it. And there's all sorts of stuff. Watch the Razor's Fist. He did like 3-parter on it because there's a ton of different detail that just makes you go, what on earth did we even know about this? We didn't know a ton about this. But the actual reason we got in a fight, me and that drummer, is because he's the type of person that I couldn't even get this much info out. Does that make sense? Like I said, no, you should check. You should. I'm not gonna hear it. No, you got to, And I finally lit into him. It's like, man, you just stonewall people, and you're impossible to talk to. Like you have all the opinions in the world, and that's not much of an exaggeration of the way he would act if he tried to come back with anything. And it was impossible. But
how can someone with so much overt contempt toward women can we still be holding up as like some kind of insight creator? Like, what is he doing? I first started Jordan Peterson. Sorry, turn this into a Jordan Peterson thing. I knew we'd get back here. I first got into him because, like, when I left the church and started getting into psychedelics, I, of course, found my way to Joe Rogan. And we were having this conversation the other day. I know that Joe Rogan doesn't push back against people, and I know that he platforms a lot of
say all the proper
Yep,
things, Tanner. Say all the proper things.
Do
Like
the preamble,
I like to hear
Tanner.
my testimony. I know this church is true. I love my mom and dad, but
the feedback he's gotten, he's been maybe a little bit more proactive about it. But I think, like, in general, I would rather hang out with Joe Rogan than like Jordan Peterson, for instance. Like, anyway, I don't really listen to Jordan Peterson these days, but that was my intro to Jordan Peterson.
Swear to God, I
Joe
don't listen
Rogan.
to Jordan Peterson.
Well, yeah.
Through Joe Rogan, and it was my introduction. Oh my God, Jack! It was my introduction into Jungian psychology. So I was like, "Whoa, this is so interesting," and has parallels to some of the experiences that I've had, and giving me context. And so I started listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson, and then over time, I was like, "Oh, I only enjoy when he's quoting like Jung or Nietzsche, or but all his original takes and all his original commentary is horrific. It all seems like I said, deeply resentful of women, very authoritarian, anti-science. Like his Twitter.
I don't know how you have the take that Peterson's deeply resentful of women.
Yeah, I know. He's anti-Jung. Like, he's like, I love Jung, but hate Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. If you listen to the red pill side, they get pissed because the ego's talking to young men about saying that they should reconfigure their entire lives to what the young women think so that they can get married properly.
That's the thing. Tanner's probably the type of, and does he bring up Andrew Tate? Because Tanner feels like the type of guy to, every time he mentions Jordan Peterson, he also has to mention Andrew Tate. So you got the guy in one hand who like probably sexually trafficked women, who is telling you that women are literal objects and that it's okay when men cheat, and if the man cheats, it's a woman's fault. And then you got the guy telling you, find a woman who challenges you and who pushes back, and you're comparing those somehow.
Jordan Peterson, Nazi incel. That's the order of operations.
Yeah. Listen, but what really interests me is like where he goes into here, because he starts criticizing Peterson's climate skepticism. Of course, he strawmans it, but then what he says after that kind of blew my mind.
Twitter feed that went through this morning was just all climate denial stuff. And that one, I'm like, for anybody claiming to be any kind of intellectual climate denier, like, it's like most people, the more informed they are on the.
He's not a climate denier. I mean, that's little bit of
made that
nuance for all these nuanced people that they can't understand. But the thing is, here is they're going to start making the same claims right here that Jordan Peterson makes. Like, listen,
functions of science are understand and accept the reality of human influenced climate change. The closer you get to a study of climate and the sciences that surround it, the more people tend to take climate change seriously. The people who are most involved in climate research, it's like 99%.
This is an argument from authority anyway. This is a shit fallacy argument. But
the more you know about these processes and the more you see how it all works together, the more you're like, oh yeah, we can't just constantly be pumping fossil fuel into the air that is influencing, and it's not just the air, it's what's happening with the oceans, it's what's happening with the forests. And for Jordan Peterson to just constantly be like, oh, this is just some big government conspiracy, it's like, oh yeah, what's more likely? There's a huge conspiracy to make the world better and more healthy for everyone, even if we like that means it's like, what if we make the world a better place for nothing? And it's like, well, we would have made the world a better place, and there's no doubt that
retard. Is that what you think is happening?
Listen to the turn. Listen to the turn. Keep going.
But just a minute, like it's all just an assumption. Like, in his head, there's this thing called conservative, and all the people that he disagrees with are conservative, and they all speak in a uniform voice about climate change. Like,
yeah, there's not.
How do you know that he spent no time listening to Peterson?
There's no concept that they're talking about triage. They're not talking about denying that the climate's changing or the pollution happens. They're talking about what's most important or salient right now.
Literally better for everybody, for the environment, for our bodies, and yet.
Hate when conspiracy theories
I'm going to put this at normal speed because I think this is a good crap right here.
I hate when the truth accidentally favors the billionaires, as it.
That's stupid truth.
This to me is just like.
What's the truth even thinking?
What they start saying, and when they kind of notice here that it's all favoring the billionaires for some sort of reason. That they're not grasping that what Peterson's talking about is that there are idiots money making scheming off of this and not helping the environment in any way and triaging out like they're not doing the triage, they're making the world worse, especially for poor people. The real people actually making stuff worse for poor people, and they're not helping the environment in any way, shape, or form, and they're just enriching themselves. It's like you guys, like you see your faces kind of almost grasping it right here. The idea isn't that the climate doesn't stink or isn't changing or something like that. It's that the galaxy brains don't have the answers. They just have ways to loot you guys, and you know it, and you're admitting you know it.
It does. Just the fact that people could think climate change was a conspiracy and it also just happens to benefit the richest people on the planet for us to believe that.
Oh yeah, right.
I'm like, if it was true that climate change wasn't real, then
You're just not putting it together.
it would be so easy to assert that as the truth because it would have the backing of all the billionaires. So
Right.
I mean, there would be nothing stopping it from being asserted as truth.
And what's crazy is like the billionaires. I mean, they also
That
are
was a
owning
great
the the green innovation things. Like
Yeah.
they own both the old energy systems and the new ones. They just want to keep burning out till they run out of that one before they switch to this one, knowing that it'll be a cheaper process with quicker turnaround for these ghouls who just
Is
want to
he
make a
just
gazillion
making
dollars.
this up
before
as
they
he
die.
goes?
He's making it up
For
as he
sure.
goes. 'Cause I think
Is
he
he-
didn't expect her to mention that it all benefits the billionaires.
Oh,
And now
they
he's like,
all they own both the things, and they want to use up the old shitty thing before they give us the new good thing. I think. That's what the scientists say anyway.
you nailed it. You nailed it.
Kill what countries they have to topple. This warlord class that literally can do anything because they'll kill you if you disagree. Pretty spooky stuff.
Is
And
he
if
high
anyone
right
is-
now?
I think he already said that he was.
Oh, he's definitely high. Holy
You
shit.
wanna know what else he said on this?
This is amazing.
He went and got an elective vasectomy.
Did he?
He's pretty young for that.
Thank God.
Yeah. Thank God.
That's your greatest contribution, Tanner.
That's actually a terrible thing to say.
It really is. Like I'd like to have hope, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's
I don't. I'm not happy you got a vasectomy, Tanner. I was saying that to be a dick. Okay.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Hold on a second here. What else they say? Oh, they also talked about like when AI takes over, it's gonna leave time for us to all be creative. And
they're embracing
we
the
can,
AI
what is it?
overlord?
We can farm in the morning, do cultural revolution in the afternoon, and poetry in the evening.
Yeah.
Thanks to AI.
I've had so many conversations where I always expect somebody to have a better answer, but they almost never do. When I'm like, okay, but once you're on the commune, what are you gonna do? Because who's gonna do the sewage work? Who's gonna do the farming and stuff? And they all have the same answer that oh, people will do the things that they like, and there'll just be people that I guess enjoy doing sewage treatment. I personally will do farming in the morning when I need to. And
yeah, they started talking about the AI, exactly how commies imagine on Twitter. That
I never got to ask her because they stopped talking to me before I, because I wanted to ask her in the moment, but I didn't think of it. I should say I didn't think of it in the moment. But when I was arguing with the PhD communist friend I had, and because we were talking about the homeless situation, and we got on to public health issues, I just that, because she talked about well, what about the laws targeting homelessness? And I just responded, public health is not arbitrary. Public health regulations are not arbitrary. They're not attacking homeless. And then she got into things well, why don't we just provide public bathrooms for the homeless? And what I never got to ask her, what I wish I would ask her, and I will ask every chance I get from now on, is what would they have to pay you to be the person whose job it is to clean and service restrooms for the homeless? What would they have to pay you? There's a figure.
They definitely have to provide me with some body armor for starters.
Yeah, because that's things you'd think before we even talk about actual compensation, what tools will I have? Will I have security? Will there be backup? Do I have hazmat suits? How much shit will I have to touch, even through a glove? All these things. but also like, because you know, like you are in college to get a PhD in fucking poetry. And let me guess how disinterested you are in sanitation, you know, let alone cleaning homeless people bathrooms.
The commie needs poets, okay? The commie needs
that's
poets.
right.
And it needs people, it needs janitors, but there's some people out there who their passion is cleaning up used needles from homeless people. So they'll handle that. I'll handle the poetry. They love that just as much as I love writing slam poetry.
So I think like one of the stuff that drives me the most nuts about most of the young little idealists online is that they have no concept of, well, it's the Thomas Sowell thing, that there's only trade-offs type idea, and that there's triage. And I was saying it like at the start of COVID when they were talking about shut down everything to save Granny. And I was like, wait, there's triage here. Like you got to still, there's going to be down the line consequences. And who knows if we're helping or saving anything here. Is anybody stopping and thinking about like, you're supposed to be the nuanced people. And there's no concept of triage at all. That's the whole entire idea that Peterson talks about with the climate change thing is he says, the stuff that you will do to try to make that transition because you supposedly think that you're going to save some future will kill people today. It will kill people, especially the people in the margins that you claim to be worried about. If you want to go taking away fossil fuels from the industrializing nations, the young up and coming nations and that sort of deal, they're going to kill a lot of people, which you could say the Malthusians are maybe trying to do that. We point out they're all trying to do eugenics on some sort of level because part of what they think is that the world should have way less people. But
it's for them it's a win if lots of people die. Like, they can't lose in that scenario. And like
but part of the point that like some of the other people are pointing out is that you're afraid of the world population, but the concept of the population bomb is not going to happen. The idea of, even Hitchens said it, is the way to beat the population is to liberalize the planet. People stop having kids. And that's one of the things. There was some new stuff coming out right now that even Utah is hitting down under the replacement rate, a new Pew Research poll, and I saw some people that are kind of predicting that. And who thought Utah would even get there? But I mean, that's even also your answer is like the world goes industrializing itself, and the rates will top out. They'll turn the other direction. They'll behavior sink themselves down low. And Hitchens was mentioning that 15 years ago. Who do you think that they do turn their minds on? They don't mention Tate. They do mention bad guy number 2. Who's bad guy number 2?
Trump.
I guess that's a good guess, but
the
popular
1.
bad guy number 2 right now.
Ben Shapiro. I'm like, Joe Rogan is probably the best of those 4.
Yeah, definitely.
That wasn't it though. It's hold on.
I guarantee they have not listened to Shapiro. Like when you hear people talk about what they imagine Shapiro believes compared to what Shapiro actually says, like one of my favorite examples is because like I wonder if it'll come up, like when they accuse Ben Shapiro of being like election denial, like from the beginning, he's like, "There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. There's not." Like, Trump should not say these things because they're not true, and like that was like of all the conservatives, like he was the first one right out the gate to say, "There's no evidence."
Well,
that's that.
That's kind of the problem of viewing people as only their identity. It's just like he's a conservative pundit, so obviously, what's he going to believe? He's going to believe all the things I hate.
What else could he possibly believe except things I hate?
Yeah. I was going to show.
So who's the boogeyman?
If you disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty spooky stuff.
If anyone is, someone said they want to try coffee before they die, but do they say they hate the smell? Anyway, my advice
the
to
smell
anyone,
of coffee.
if you don't like coffee yet, go to Starbucks and get an iced caramel macchiato. It'll be so sweet. It'll be the perfect intro.
No,
Also,
don't
Nicola,
tell
yes,
people
I
to
pissed
drink
myself
more
moving back
fucking
to the UK,
milkshakes.
But the thing is, because I'm freelance, so basically, if I want to move back with Jared, my partner, to say nothing of the fact that I'll be
This is
leaving
all
Tana,
nothingness, but it's coming up.
for him to get a visa, either I have to have a job offer of a certain amount of money from a company in the UK, which doesn't really work with what I do for for a living,
Especially as
or
we're trying to-
I have to have.
That's because what you do for a living isn't an actual job.
To be able to move to the UK with me. So, you know.
Well, with all the super chats we've
Venmo
got
in the
today.
description, yeah. Just need to get rich enough that.
I love how constantly Sam talks about her finances.
Yeah.
It's
Someone
she
said that
mentioned
looks
her
like-
broken crown in her solo live stream, and she just kept talking about how it's gonna suck financially. It's gonna, and so if you need a faith transitions coach, whatever the fuck that is,
that's coming up, and they also say they feel guilty asking for
I
money,
am
but
always
capitalism.
thinking about Little Orphan Tanny and little skits that I should
we
do,
know.
but
Thinking about being.
Yeah.
Also, in the where is it? Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, and Ben Shapiro. I'm like, Joe Rogan is probably the best of those four.
Yeah,
Which
definitely.
isn't saying that much, but you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Elon Musk just gets lamer and lamer. I can't believe it.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Like,
You know,
after you guys
we had a
gets
party in
lamer and lamer?
2017, and Jenny.
Elon Musk.
No, but just like Gitz, because I mean, he's the same guy pretty much he's ever been.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed is that
now they
he's
don't
no
like-
longer politically on your side. Like,
yeah, it was just
the Overton window has shifted so far that Musk is now not in your team. That's what's changed.
Yep.
You've
Still
changed.
Satan, but it's Satan like the vegan kind,
Uh-huh.
which is the best kind. Thank you so much.
You wouldn't want to be involved in
temple
any kind of
divorce.
moralizing.
Ladies, where do
Just
Well-
because I was just thinking about if there's the name for what Sam's job, there's an old-fashioned name for what Sam does for a living. The Mormons call it priestcraft.
Comment we got from someone who grew up in the super, super, super rich wards, who said they knew that billionaire family that gets to choose their own missions and
Wait, what?
and they get to choose which apostle does their wedding and
Wait, that isn't
Those are such
surprising at
high-level
all, but
donors.
I haven't heard that. So if
She's
you're
like,
super
that's
rich,
not surprising.
Wait. Rich people have friends and ask them for things?
choose where you
Is
go
that
on mission.
how?
I mean, yeah, if you're like a
Thoughts on divorce? Oh, I'd love to fucking share my thoughts on divorce. More specifically, did you feel conflicted when mulling over divorce, or was it a mutual growing apart when you left? Love from the UK. Sending love to the UK. I was hoping to go this summer, but financially couldn't run to it. But I love divorce. I
the
think
UK is coming to us.
Yeah, I love divorce.
yes.
Your mom is coming over.
Yay,
My mum's coming in September. I think divorce is awesome. I also don't like the institution of marriage. Doesn't resonate with me at this point in my life. I would only see myself getting married for, practical
divorce.
green card
Divorce.
reasons.
It's like a double divorce.
Oh, so you're a feminist.
In
Things
terms of feeling
what works for you is the only reason to do something.
I love divorce.
conflicted when I was mulling over divorce, no, not at all. Other than just the sort of, it's hard to break up with people, and I think anytime you're going through a breakup, you question it, and because it's hard, and our brains are wired to maintain our attachments at all costs.
She's
there
speaking in
is
her
that
expertise
piece of
now
you that's
as
"We'll
a
get
life
back together."
coach.
And most people don't get
But
divorced straight away.
That's her special training that she's giving us. She went to college to say things like it's hard to break up with people.
Went to $2,000 2-day certification.
You're gonna have a lot of feelings now that you're breaking up with somebody. Give me $200.
We looked up what it costs to get a life coach certification. I might go, if I feel wasteful enough, I might go splurge to get a life coach certification, and I'll become a life coach dickhead. I'll call myself the divorce life coach. I'm here to get you divorced, folks. And I have some picture. You want some divorce? Come to me.
You do like a little period of separation or a big period, and I think in that time it's easier. It's easy to feel like maybe we'll get back together, maybe we won't. But in terms of morally or philosophically, no, zero conflict in my mind about divorce. I just think there's no sense putting the what's the word?
I wonder if
That's
she's
because you're a
ruined
marriage failure.
Conceptual reality.
I wonder if she's ruined any very salvageable marriages yet. It feels like if she actually gets clients, that's probably what she does.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the fights I've had with my wife, if she would have told Sam about it, she'd be like, oh, you should definitely get a divorce. Do you not want to be with him right now, in this very moment, right now, and nothing could ever change probably in the next day or two? We'll fucking divorce him. I love divorce.
You know that I love analogies, and the analogy I just came up with is life coach is to marriage problems as acupuncturist is to bowel cancer. Like the best you're gonna get is not help. The most you're gonna get is no help. The worst you're gonna get will make things worse and kill you.
It's more like acupuncture with needles that are bathed inside of some sort of
used heroin.
Used heroin.
Wait, does acupuncture do bad things? Like I don't think it does any good things, but does it actually hurt
No.
people?
The dirty needles are a major problem in acupuncture.
I didn't think about that.
These people don't believe in germs.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Quality of the relationship above what you're each experiencing as individuals. And if anyone is looking for a relationship transition coach,
yeah, we're not, honey. Don't worry about it.
A relationship transition coach, huh? I thought your specialty was faith transition, but relationship, I guess, is just the next jump, right?
Well, it's losing faith in your spouse.
Feels like you could prank call her. You could call up and looking for some divorce.
I guess
I'll go bone your husband.
So check this out. If we wanted some other relationships advice, I was going to show Blonde from Blonde and Matt telling you that you should groom 16-year-old girls to become your.
That was surprising.
They took down the stream.
That was did they? I'm glad I got to hear, because I only listened to that section, like you said, like go back about 20 minutes, and like I listened to 4 minutes of like, what is he talking about? And then I was like, oh my god. That is what she's talking about. That was also funny. Like Matt was incredibly gracious to her, because like when he's like, "Oh, okay," I think we had a misunderstanding where it's like, "No, lady, you said specific, clear things." Matt made you feel so stupid about it.
Matt Christiansen is great. He has his little essays that he puts out, like kind of going over some of the stuff in the news. I guess I could pull his channel up, but he does a live stream every Wednesday with Blonde from Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. And halfway through this live stream, she started saying that what all men should do is they should find 16-year-olds and groom them.
Yeah,
and
if you're 30 to 40, save the world by grooming
if you're 40 or younger, what you need to do is find the girls who are not yet of age, so they haven't been run through by a train yet. And then you need to groom them. That's what she said.
She really did.
Yeah.
Somebody must have archived it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to her credit, she didn't cop. She did not.
She kept going
to the paradigm shift in her head, but Matt did kind of bring her around to like, well, no,
Matt
you
was
should
like,
not.
Those are kids. Like they belong to their parents. You gotta defer.
Like, and she was like, no, we have to save them. Like any kind of religious zealot freak. Like, no, we have to save them from their parents. Their parents are shit. We have to subvert what their parents do to save them. And you do that by being an attractive older man and give her fucking Jordan Peterson books, or what did she say?
Yeah, she said you got to start giving them books. You got to start giving them stuff, and you got to start talking to them when they're young before they turn of age, so that you're there. And then as soon as they're of age, you can swoop them up and take them. And so it's not like it's illegal to date some girls when they're 16 or something like that. And Matt just keeps going like, I don't think this is right. I don't think this is how we're going to do this.
He keeps saying like, no, we cannot undermine parents' authority, even if we disagree with those parents. And she's completely like she just does not even, it does not register her, that concept.
This is Matt and Blonde, and they just kept going and going. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm listening to this right here.
It was astounding. That was really something.
Oh man, she put her entire Thrive Women's Conference talk up. I hadn't.
Sam?
Yeah. Share it with me. I told you guys what that one says. Remember?
Does it say anything about divorce? I bet it does.
It says a whole lot about what you're determined to do if you're Share the link if you got it pulled right now. That one's a little hard to Google. I don't know what channel it's on.
It's on her channel.
Is it? Boom. Did you share it? Hold on.
I guess I gotta start using the StreamYard chat, huh?
No, I got it here.
Okay. Divorce.
What? This one has a transcript. What words should we look on the transcript?
I've been going through her videos just now and doing divorce. I haven't done this one yet.
Rebuilding after faith crisis. This was the conference that Anthony Miller, who listens to us sometimes, it was like 15 girls and Anthony Miller. Let's see here. What word? Divorce. It's not in there. This one's not about divorce.
Transition.
Transition. No.
What the hell is she talking about?
There was some predeterminism in there. I don't remember exactly how she said it, but I can't remember. I listened to the whole thing. I would have brought it up if there was something interesting. Yeah. Man.
One time, Sam Harris asked me if I could name a city, and I didn't know what the city was that he wanted me to name. That means I don't have free will.
I pumped through so much crap. You guys have no idea, man. Like I listened to all of them and then go, and the majority of them are like, nah. There's not really anything to pull up there. But let's see, what else did we go over in the threadies of stuff? Did you see that? Like, there's this wacky war zone going on in Paris.
No,
I've only a teenager got shot
what the
by
heck
a
this
cop.
is about. There's like a major, like almost kind of like a militia forming outside of Paris right here. There's all these fightings going on right here.
Yeah, no, all I know is a kid got shot by a cop. The cop's been arrested. I don't know if there's any actual footage of the shooting, if it's like a bad shoot or not. Because, like, I'm sure France is a lot
This
like
city's
America,
like a
where it
full
doesn't
war
matter.
zone, and you barely even hear about it. So check this out.
The French George Floyd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sort of when that's happened. Pride on the official Pride of UK.org shared this, and what's this little flag down here? That's the NAMBLA flag down there. On there.
NAMBLA flag.
Yeah, that's what that
Stand with
color
all
is.
of us, just those you recognize.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's what that is right there.
Stand with NAMBLA.
Yep.
And the NAMBLA episode of South Park, like everything, they do such a great job just distilling it. Like,
Well, that was one of those times you didn't know that the thing you were watching was a real thing again.
Well, see, I mean, I did. Like, I had heard of it before. But the thing at the end where, like, there's the guy's giving a speech about, like, and it's basically critical theory, queer theory, but couched in the language of liberalism, and like I says the whole thing about like, well, who's to say, and shouldn't we all have freedom and all that? And just Kyle going, dude, you fuck children. And then like he repeats it all again, and then just Kyle goes like, dude, you fuck children. Like, yeah, no, that's really all we need to say about that. Like,
No, I
like,
remember watching that. I remember watching.
I agree
Chicken
that
Hawk.
there is something to be said about like all that stuff about like, well, I mean, you can't decide how you were born, and your feelings are your feelings and all this stuff, but like, no, there's a line, and the line is you can't fuck kids. That's the line. And like,
I remember watching that Chicken Hawk documentary and thinking that sounds like just a parody of reality. It sounds like they actually let the South Park guys name their organization, the North American Man Boy Love Association. Like, that's really what you're gonna go with.
And it had been around a long time before. It's been around a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I know they have them. Just it blows my mind. It sounded like they made somebody who's making fun of them make their name.
Yeah, but that's the stuff that always happened on South Park, is they kept showing people real stuff, and they'd be like, "What?"
Yeah, no, that's like one of those things. Like looking back, stuff they did 20 years ago, where like, you know, they have like the dopey college guy talking, and like at the time I'm like, this sounds silly. And then you realize like they are quoting feminist queer theory textbooks. Like you can tell they found the critical theory, they read it, and they just have the characters say what's in the text. You know, like I didn't realize that until decades later listening to James Lindsay, you know, actually read the stuff. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, that wasn't the South Park guys, you know, interpreting this. No, they were quoting the scripture, like literally.
So did you know Ken Ham thinks you got to watch out for William Lane Craig?
What?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. William Lane Craig, like, I mean, he's a presuppositionalist, but he seems to be like basically honest. Whereas Ken Ham is obviously a fraudster and a crook.
Is he?
Well, that's what he says about William Lane
I
Craig.
just always thought he was insane.
Apologist.
I mean, the
in
tax,
America,
he goddamn knew he was fudging taxes on that Ark Park.
Oh, I could see that.
really well known in Christian circles, but sadly, well, he compromises God's word in Genesis, like the majority of Christian leaders do. So let's watch the clip.
How old is the world?
Best estimates today are around 13.7 billion years or so.
No, this is good. You see, this is a position I can embrace, because there are people who will sit here and say, no, it's 6,500 years old.
What's that?
Is that David Lee Roth?
Yeah, he does look a lot like him, doesn't he? He totally
He
does.
looks spot on. He looks exactly like him, man.
I never put that together, but that's 100% real, man. Yeah.
That is not a tenable position?
I don't think it's plausible. The arguments that I give are right in line with mainstream science. I'm not bucking up against mainstream science and presenting these arguments. Rather, I'm going with the flow of what contemporary cosmology and astrophysics supports.
You know, William Lane Craig is a Christian leader, and he impacts a lot of people, impacts a lot of young people. But you can see here from this video clip, he admits outright he's going with the flow of what he calls, you know, mainstream science says about the age of the universe. In other words, he's taking what the majority of scientists, secular scientists, are saying billions of years and saying that's fact, and then going to the Bible. Actually, do you realize what he's really doing? He's taking man's word literally and God's word allegorically. He should be judging man's word with God's word.
Do we not have
And
any
when you
examples
do
of
that,
God
you find
speaking in
out that-
allegory? Like I feel like
Not
God
one.
constantly did that. Like I feel like a lot of the stories were called allegory. Like they have the word allegory next to them when we say them.
It's like just at work today, I was bringing up like, because one that, you know, because I mean, I love the poetry of the language, but I was thinking today about cherubim and a flaming sword. Like, are there really naked angel babies and a flaming sword somewhere guarding the way to Eden? Or should we read that one allegorically? Because like that one's like, I hope that one's literal. Like I really hope that there's angel babies with a fiery sword.
Just imagine when you die, Flip, and you're walking the pearly gates and you see that and you go, well, I'll be goddamned. You know, you want to see Dana Carvey be based?
Oh, I love.
He made one horrifically bad movie in his career, never recovered.
It's got one good line.
That was
in it.
such
Give
a.
us
I
one good
remember
line.
I was a very, very little kid when that came out, and I loved it. But even when I was a little kid, that turtle part, I hated it. I hated it. It was so stupid. Like I'm like 10 years old, and I'm like, this isn't funny. Why would you think this is funny? You're one of the funniest people ever.
I miss COVID. I know. Dude, you know when I knew there was trouble? When anyone that came to our country didn't have to get a vaccine. And I go, if you're telling me I can't go to work, but everyone coming in doesn't have to get one, I go,
well, once we found out when Fauci said,
okay, I'm sorry, but if you've had 2 boosters and 2 vaccines, you can get and give COVID to another guy who's had 5 vaccines and 4 boosters. What's the difference between a vaccine and a booster? I don't know. It's just more vaccine, but booster sounds better. Anyway, a guy with 25 vaccines would get and give COVID to another guy with 25 vaccines. That's why I'm introducing the daily COVID shot. Every day you get a shot. By the time you get to your car, you got no immunity. But it's a beautiful 39 seconds. I missed Okay, well, we thought it was Dana Carvey doesn't understand that if you follow the science, science evolves, right? We thought that the COVID shot was going to give you full immunity, and then once we found out that it only gives you immunity for like a month, we were like, okay, now we're following the new science. The new science says this. And then once we found out it doesn't give you any immunity, but it kind of makes it a little bit better, we're okay. And then once we found out that ivermectin is actually helpful, we're like, okay, all that stuff that we like, the people that we tried to disbar from the medical community for saying that, I guess you were right, but you're still a conspiracy theorist.
And it's time for amnesty, Jared.
It is time for amnesty. Like we all said things we didn't mean. Like you guys told us we were going a little bit overboard for masking and making kids stay in school. We made your kids not go to school and lose 2 years of education and not know how to read. We made them not see each other's faces forever. We made you lose your jobs and we ostracized you as we all did things we regret, is what I'm saying. So
remember,
forgive me and I'll forgive you.
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yes.
You remember 2 weeks to flatten? I'm old enough to remember when they said we just needed 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Everybody here knew that was bullshit the second it was said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, like there's a few things like because I mean on the internet the kids playing clarinet through a mask with a hole cut through the middle. Like that's one of those classic things.
Oh my God.
Did you ever see
even for me, like there was
going to school dances, and they had to dance backwards, gripping arms like this?
Oh yeah. But like because for me, like it was barely like it was 2 days into the lockdowns, and I think Chris sent it to me. Somebody, I don't know who, but it was video back east somewhere of a church group in a Walmart singing hymns because the law allowed them to gather at Walmart, but not at their church.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was like, okay, this is a farce, like officially, like that's a fucking joke. We're done.
And then it just came up again and again, like it was okay to riot, but not okay to gather like 10 people for church.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember that. Like, the first thing that tipped me off, and it was right away. It was seriously like the first day of our quarantine. I'm like looking through my phone at the list of essential businesses and shit like that, and it took them all of like 4 minutes to be like, oh yeah, liquor stores are definitely essential. Because like it's not because the state makes money off of them. Okay, it's nothing to do with that. Liquor store, we're not gonna go through this COVID without getting drunk or anything like that. It was like, oh, you guys are all lying. This is nothing, isn't it?
Yeah. It was
You remember
ridiculous.
Alyssa Milano's face masks?
Oh yeah, behind a.
Oh.
But like the thing
her
with
knit face masks.
The vaccines, like I mean, I brought it up before, but like, you know. This idea, I mean, the whole expert thing. None of us have ever met anybody born before 1950 that had polio. Like, no one we know has ever had polio, and everyone we know has had the polio vaccine. So, without any special knowledge, I can come to the conclusion that the polio vaccine is safe and effective. Meanwhile, 2 weeks into the vaccine push, everyone I knew had the COVID vax, and everyone I knew had subsequently gotten COVID. Guess how I know that the COVID vaccine is not effective? And I don't need special knowledge for that. It didn't.
It was never a
fucking
vaccine.
work.
It was that was a Brett Weinstein goes on that was a mislabeling of it. That it always was just a therapeutic something or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
But what's the next thing? Like the next time that thing pops up, And it's like, this is bullshit. And we know it's bullshit.
Yeah.
How do we not go down the funnel of bullshit? Like how does that
Well,
not
public
happen?
trust
Because
is,
there's
like,
going to be another
completely
one.
obliterated.
Yeah. Well, maybe the most of the population, because just this past week I heard some normie moms talk about how ridiculous the masking of their kids were. And that's when I was like listening to it. I'm like, I know you all weren't talking like this 2 years ago, but you're letting it all out now. So whenever the next great big stupid thing comes out, like how do we say no, we're not doing it. Some people are saying maybe this like dirty air and the fires or something they're gonna come.
I don't think there's a limit to the amount of times certain people can say, well, this is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's
no
the thing
limit.
Thomas Sowell goes on about all the time. He wrote a whole book about experts and how they never, ever, ever have to admit that they were wrong. They just
never
get
pay
to keep
for
talking.
it. They never have to
They
pay
never pay for being completely wrong about everything.
I think this is right. We don't have a healthy relationship with danger. And then, of course, there was that weird thing of like, I don't know, it was like choosing the old people over the young people. I don't know what that was suddenly all about.
Yeah, that was weird.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm a pureblood. But like, how do we like what? Because the thing's gonna come, and we're not gonna know exactly. I mean, I didn't know that stupid pandemic was coming. I guess I could have if I was listening to Bill Gates close. But yeah, you see the thing that he really did release those stupid ass mosquitoes, and like I'd heard that like it was a rumor that he was gonna do, and then he really did it.
Wait, the mosquitoes that genetically engineer mosquitoes so they can't have babies?
So that they something to do with like it's supposed to kill off malaria because they're gonna have something in them that hasn't, but they carry malaria or something like that. Mosquitoes and Bill Gates.
I didn't know they released those. I remember them talking about like, should we do this? Because like they said, like we have.
You might not
like,
release it.
Well, because it's just funny also how often Star Trek gets there 30 years ahead, because there was a Next Generation episode where like they develop a virus that would kill the Borg, and Picard's like, well, no, like they're still a living thing. We can't just kill them all. And that's things like apparently they've developed a virus, not a virus exactly, but something that would make it so that mosquitoes can no longer reproduce. Like they'll have babies, but none of them will be viable babies.
Yeah.
We'll also develop a vaccine that we can make a shitload of money off of.
Yeah, that's
Save America.
But there was another thing too that I might have passed over, but like there was some banning of old ovens in New York pizza kitchens and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I read about that.
Just kind of slips through that, but
because I'm sure that the pizza ovens, that's the thing that's really doing.
And maybe it's now just kind of like a trickle to stuff, but I'm like wondering like when's the next big universal 2 weeks to stop the spread, and what? Because I kind of think you can't guess what it's gonna be. Like what's gonna be this stupid thing. And how this
driving bans?
No.
You can't drive for 2 weeks to save the earth. Don't start your car for 2 weeks to save the earth. Under penalty of law.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Please drive electric cars. Please don't.
Well, that's another one. Cars. Like 1980, Neil Peart writes Red Barchetta about a dystopian future where internal combustion engines are illegal, and California passed the law that, like, what is it, 2030, it'll be illegal to sell a car with an internal combustion engine. Like, and they have no plan for an electric grid to actually support what would be needed to actually have electric cars as the standard.
All you're gonna do is just like you're gonna make poor people. Obviously, these rules all mostly fuck over poor people, but
all you're
gonna make them do is pay more to just go out of state and buy an actual car, and you're gonna fuck over all of your businesses, your dealerships, and things like that. And I don't know, like this doesn't even make it past the first step of speculation. It hits a wall immediately. I don't know why.
Yeah. Because they are prophets. They think they know. They will lead us to safety. They know the future. They have seen it, and it is no more cars.
Ugh, it's so goofy. So last week there was a thing on Thoughtful Saints where Jacob and Jackson Washburn got into it because Jackson was going to go give a talk at a church about inclusion and unity.
Oh yeah.
And Jackson gave the talk, and then he reported it here, but I guess it was all passed off on by the clergy and all that sorts of stuff. And here is the name of the talk. He actually posted it on his blog. Finding Love, Unity, and Inclusion in Christ, June 25th, 2023. So there's no blue church agenda in this. It's proven. Wait a minute. Let me just read that title again. Finding Love, Unity, and Inclusion in Christ. I didn't even read the rest of the thing. He's like, look here. There's nothing about blue church in any of this. I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's no fifth column. And I just like look at the title of that. And right now, in 2 months, I have to recertify to be a senior professional in human resources. And look at this corpo crap. Inclusion conference registration is open. Register by July 14th to secure the best rate. Tell me that doesn't look just like the Jackson's page right there.
It doesn't. It's also like they make everything look childish. Like, what's the deal with that? Like, everything has to be. Their favorite things to do is like these TikToks that super lefties will do, where they make it exaggerated. They make it like cringe on purpose, but like gearing it toward childish stuff. But they're obviously not even talking to kids. I don't understand the infantilization of everything.
So let's
that
take
looks
a look
like it's a school dance. It's an ad for a school dance.
So I'm in HR, and there's no accident that coming through graduate school in the humanities made me land in HR when I went to the working world. That was by design. I funneled through the programs, and this is why I say it was almost kind of more like they say missionaries get funneled through to have a life and something. This was the funneling through of blue church stuff, and Jackson's going on his divinity school trajectory there to become an infiltrator and entryist in what he is. But let's take a look at like what I have to do to certify nowadays. To here's a thing saying ethics recertification requirement. There's a new ethics recertification requirement.
All this time you thought you had ethics, but you were wrong.
Yeah, and now I got to recertify in those ethics. And this is one of the conferences. Like I could go to this conference in Georgia and listen to those people talk about it. But I'm given a bunch of options to choose from, when I can do all the options if I want to of this series. Let me see. The courses. Let's take a look at these courses. This is how you be HR nowadays. This is how you do it. Only $299. Certificate in HR ethics, business ethics in the 21st century, corporate social responsibility.
How many do you see you have to take?
I've got to take 60 hours worth.
Jeez,
by the
corporate
end of
and
August.
Social responsibility.
HR ethics series, capitalism, inequality, and justice. only $49 for me to recertify in that, to become a corporate
To learn how
person,
terrible capitalism is.
to become a corporate commissar who's against capitalism and inequality and justice. And if I twist it just right, I could use it for my church talk too.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what if you go listen to Jackson's talk like live?
That counts as one of my certification credits. I'm like, let's okay, Jackson.
But he's a Harvard Divinity School grad.
It'd be funny if it was like
he
a
wears
cosmic
eyeliner and he has a degree. What more do you want?
It'd be funny if it was like a cosmic thing. Like I go and sit through it and I watch and see if the certification credit dings on my phone. Like, so he's like, I swear this is all just church stuff. It's not any blue church stuff. This is just
that's
church
coming
stuff.
with
I'm
the
not
social
doing
credit score.
Corporate commissar stuff. And I just go and sit there and I list, ding, ha, ethics credit. You're doing blue church. Ah.
So my requirement as a general contractor, I got to go take 6 hours of CE every 2 years. to be able to re-get my license. I just got an email today. It was like $100 to go take one class, but I wonder how long it's going to be.
They talk about how statistically blacks and Mexicans are less likely to have a second story onto which to build a deck.
Well,
that's glass
the
window.
thing. That's what I'm wondering. How long is it going to be until they start pushing this shit into my general?
They'll put it into all.
Honestly, I'm appalled that they don't already have it. It's 2023.
Yeah,
I mean,
so guess what? These next 2 months, I'm gonna sit through these. If I want to get recertified, I've got to sit through these. So maybe I could turn them into podcast stuff.
Never mind the like woke ideology. Like over 10 years ago, I worked as a legal courier, and I learned an important lesson about bureaucracy and the silliness. It was one of those things where it's like, I had that moment looking back when like, oh, so those, the conservatives on the radio actually had a point. And it was one, I don't know where everybody lives, but like, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was, all the 7-Elevens in Utah installed those big pizza ovens because they were going to start serving those pizzas. And so they all had to have uprated electrics put in. And the courier that I worked with contracted with a law firm that had contracted with 7-Eleven to handle all of the permitting to get new electrics installed. And so, for a summer, I dealt with this all up and down the Wasatch Front and in Salt Lake County. And I just remember it was remarkable because, like, West Valley City, I walked into the office. I said, hey, I've got these documents and I need to talk to so-and-so. And they said, oh, and they pointed at a guy and he was 10 feet away and he stood up from his desk. He walked over, he looked through the packet, he stamped it, and I left. And that was the certification process for West Valley City. Draper City was 12 visits over 3 months, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, getting this document, this phone call, all this stuff. And
Those guys are smarter because they're justifying their job more.
Well, I guess so. But yeah, it was amazing. It's like, it was the exact same job. Like the same thing in all the 7-Elevens in the same county, like, within miles of each other. But the West Valley City was like, okay, everything is in order. There you go. Draper ran them through the fucking ringer. And just so like, it was just that, like, oh, that's bureaucracy. Like that was one of my lessons about like, oh, so that's what people are talking about.
No, I had this,
and I was stunned by that.
We have this thing we got to put on our waste anytime we go into like a radioactive contaminated area, right? And it's to test the air while we're in there, making sure that it's not too contaminated for our respiratory protection. And
it's make sure it's just contaminated enough, like the Goldilocks of radiation.
Yeah,
this radiation is just right.
So the filter is in this little plastic head thing, right? It's just a little piece of plastic, and it's sucking the filter through, and we clean them off when we're done, make sure they're not contaminated, and then reuse them. But they break very often. And these things, they cost like $58 a pop. They break all the time. And so one of the more innovative workers we have, she said, hey, we got this new 3D printer. Let me mess around with the software. She figured out how to make a design for these little filter heads that we have to put on our chest every day. And so she could just print them. So it didn't matter if they were breaking. She was making several of them a day for pennies. Forever. And then some of the higher ups found out about it and they were like, you can't do that anymore because we're undercutting the vendor. Oh, you mean we're screwing over the guy who's charging us $58 a pop for a little piece of plastic? Good.
That's how the mob works. That's literally how the mob works. Like,
yeah, so we can't do it anymore. So now we have this $1,000 3D printer that's basically useless.
You found a way to save thousands of dollars with it, and that was the wrong move.
That was the wrong move.
See, Chris Fry says they're priming to take apart conspiracy theorists, anti-vaxxers, and to hate us all. Really makes you wonder about the Black Plague and was it man-made? Troy says, God, I love that Flip knows Pert's red Barchetta. He's so cool. You could keep a side of beef for a month. Well, the elephant in the room is Tiananmen Square. Anyone who loves electric vehicle just needs to take a road trip in one. Honestly, guys, I'm seriously considering leaving this country, and this is some straight up bullshit. What's your next Kurosawa flick? You guys are doing a Kurosawa film club, right? We should do that.
Oh,
you want to know? It's kind of hard to find some. I was just looking for some. I was actually looking for High and Low, and I couldn't.
See, I know because a while ago I looked, and there was a bunch on HBO, which isn't called that anymore.
We should do High. We should start because we haven't done a film club, but we should start with High and Low if we're gonna do a film club.
Fucking love that movie.
Kage, what's that? Well, since we're talking Indiana Jones, we started into Indiana Jones. I guess George Lucas helped him put together that one. Kagemusha, yeah.
Hidden Fortress is the one that Lucas famously lifted ideas off of for Star Wars.
Are there any other?
These well, I mean, he actually helped. He actually helped with Kagemusha.
Are there any other Lucas properties that they can destroy? Because like they even destroyed Willow, which wasn't very big. And, like, are they going to try to make like an American Graffiti cinematic universe or something?
I want to see woke American Graffiti. It's all women. It's all electric cars. And
did you hear what they did with that Willow series?
They give old black people rides to the.
I heard a little bit.
They took it down because they could get a tax credit for saying.
Oh yeah, I heard.
If they remove it from the streaming series, they can get a tax credit for saying that it sucked so much or it didn't work so much.
Oh yeah.
Claim it for. Jared, you could totally move to Japan and get a job over there and get paid probably 10 times more than you get paid.
Can I do that? I want to live in Japan. I don't speak any Japanese though, but I can.
Speaking of that, I've been watching that. I don't know if I'm going to keep watching it because it's obviously not like real Japanese. It's Netflix values put into it. But I was watching that Japanese series that came out about a sumo wrestler, and it's interesting. But then of course, like in comes a girl reporter, and they say, "How come you guys don't let any women into this sumo wrestling thing or something like that?" And then they start just getting into all that stuff. And I'm only 2 episodes in, and I'm so sensitive to that stuff nowadays. I'm like, nope. Like this is in Japanese and it's about a sumo and all that sorts of stuff, but you guys are already dropping in all the stuff that's just kind of Netflix basic.
I can't watch anything anymore. Every time I watch something, I'm just like, can I just not be entertained?
No,
I mean that's all I want. That's all I want is just to be entertained.
You know that's
Remember
political.
Stories.
That's political anyway.
Well, no, but that's things like because I mean this is the thing though. What we're experiencing is like because remember how boring church movies were? Like all movies are church movies now. Everything has to
snow.
Well, I brought that up because forever ago we did a bit of a review of the HBO's Julia Childs series. And if you watch that series, it gets to a point where Julia Childs is suddenly having a college romp with another woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like another point where she's talking with like Betty Friedan about being a feminist and all sorts of stuff. And you look it up. I was watching like, this ain't no Julia Childs. Julia Childs was a tomboy through and through. She beat you up, man. Like, what's all this crap, you know? And I look it up and it was obviously just the choice of the writers to start like mixing that stuff in. And there was no college romp or no ever any sort of thing that she was a secret
or a British
or
accent.
Like or a British accent, yeah. That blew my mind. Like after a while, the way I got used to it, I'm like, what's this accent? Like this
is from
Julia
Connecticut.
Child's a Californian. She's a Californian.
Oh.
And
but
the lady in the show has this like dainty accent.
I like to bump beavers, but they're getting colder.
And
eating crumpets.
But I started thinking, like, if everything on Netflix was just, let's do Mormon Netflix the way they try to do clean flicks, and Mormon Netflix would be like, we do all the same shows, only Julia Child's show. It is the Julia Child's show. This is what happened to Julia Child's show, except we got to have one episode. Oh, they also had an episode where she went to a trans nightclub, and wow, I didn't know there was trans people. This is so amazing. And we just have to stop and have one episode about that in the Julia Child's show.
Parade.
Yeah,
I'll never vote Republican again.
Yeah,
but if it were actual Mormon Netflix or Mormons really did run Hollywood or something like that, what it would be is you would get the Julia Child show, so it's still the whole Julia Child story, but you got to take one episode out where she's like, "Oh, just walking over the street here. Oh, 2 Mormon missionaries. And I've met you." She could have met some Mormon missionaries, the writer says. "Oh, I'll go check out your church. Yeah, we'll check it out on Sunday." And she
I'll
goes
never
on
cook with
Sunday
wine
and she
again.
sits. And then at the end of the episode, she goes, "That was the most loveliest thing. I think I'd get baptized, but I have much to do. Hopefully I don't die before that happens in my life, but it could happen." And then you're off to finish the Julia Childs story. Like, so if we had Mormon Netflix, that's the episode that we would have wedged in to every single one of the stories that we'd have to watch at some point.
I don't think anything came of the lawsuit, but I thought it was so funny with that the Queen's Gambit, where they had to go retro because like the thing is,
I
like,
like that.
apparently
I like that show, but it's like it's total longhouse bullshit.
I watched
It's
like the first half of the first
fantasy.
episode and I was bored. But like I like the whole thing because like because the whole thing is obviously feminist girl power stuff, and I forget
it's
the name of
fantasy.
it,
It's
but
pure
they
fantasy.
reference like in the show they reference a real life Georgian female chess player, and they're like she's good, but she's never played against men. And real life Georgian chess player lady was like, "Yes, I did."
Yeah.
And she sued them. She's like, "Yes, I did play against men." Like, but like,
she sued them for not being feminist.
Well, no, because like that's one of those things. Like when I was a kid, like
why did they? If reality was more feminist than their movie, why didn't they go with reality?
When I was 16 or 17, I got my wisdom teeth out, and it was really bad, and like I had like a month-long recovery from wisdom teeth, so I was just stuck at home. And I remember I became incredibly bored, and for some reason got into chess, and so like I went to the library and I read all the chess books and like the history of chess, and I went nuts about the history of chess and chess masters and all this crap. And so like fast forward 25 years and they make the show about like women weren't allowed to play against men. I'm like, fucking in the 90s I knew this. I learned it from the library. Yes, they did. But like they just had to make it up.
Yeah. That show was just like pure fantasy. If you get over that this is just gonna be pure fantasy, that this girl's just the best, it's a fine show after that or whatever. But it does a little bit of the feminism crap, but whatever. The way it's filmed and just like kind of like imagining somebody's great at chess, that could be fun because like In Search of Bobby Fischer is fun to watch somebody just beat people up at chess and that sort of deal. But yeah, it was stupid. VeggieTales, my older brother's family loved VeggieTales. Have you guys ever seen the film The Room, the one with Brie Larson? It's pretty good. She did pretty good in that one. Are you talking about The Room, the bad movie?
There was a room with Brie Larson?
Yeah, there's one. It's called Room where she gets trapped in a room with her kid by a serial killer or something and kept there for 8 years. She won the Oscar for it, and then that was all before getting cast as your ex-wife in Marvel.
And that's not Panic Room.
Getting cast as everybody's ex-wife in Marvel. I think it's called Room. But did
you notice how like her band of she talks about how she has this band of supposed haters, but like nobody at all gave a shit that she was in the new Fast and Furious movie. Like nobody like gave her a hard time for that. It's like she doesn't understand that the only reason people hated her was because she was an asshole to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everybody that hates Brie Larson was somebody that knew or worked with her.
Well, she was an asshole to the fans. Like she didn't come out to the
Fast
and Furious franchise and say like, oh, this is a movie for people that like fast cars and dumb explosions.
They made the woke Oprah version of A Wrinkle in Time, and that was the first time she came out and said, "This isn't made for adult men." And you want to know what? I loved A Wrinkle in Time, and if they made like a true version for it, yeah, you would have gotten a ticket, and somebody wouldn't have gone and watched it. If you just made it how the book is, you didn't have to make it for me. You just had to make it how the book is, which is perfectly acceptable for young girls and young black girls and young men and whatever. Just make it how the book is. I would have loved it. I loved A Wrinkle in Time when I was a kid, and nope, it's got to be all this crap now. And Wrinkle in Time got totally panned, but she came out. That's like the first place she came out being like a giving off your ex-wife energy, and this is that movie. She won the Oscar for this, for best actress. It's not a bad movie. The whole thing is that she gets kidnapped and put in a small room with her son, and they're there for like 8 years living because it's almost a Kimmy Schmidt but serious. Kimmy Schmidt, man, now that's funny stuff.
That stuff was good.
We were depending on the Mormons. Some watched VeggieTales, others did not. It was always a mixed bag where I grew up. Both that movie and the movie Dogma are really hard to find anymore. But the movie, were you talking about The Room, the Tommy Wiseau movie? And then what's his name? James Franco made a movie about The Room, the Tommy Wiseau movie.
I did watch that, The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, that's good. It's good stuff. You know, it's well done. And now James Franco's not allowed to make any movies ever again. He's canceled. James Franco has the rights to Blood Meridian. And Blood Meridian is the Cormac McCarthy book that we'd all love to see made, but of course Hollywood would screw it up if it ever did.
I don't know. Well, I don't know how you would make it.
It'd be impossible. But he has the rights for it and tried to do it. And actually, he originally cast as the judge that guy who he always goes on Unsafe Space with Carrie. He used to go. What's his name? He's
on
Lebowski. I remember his name. He was
the dude who's on the Lebowski, and he's a libertarian.
The asshole on Dexter.
They originally cast him as the judge. What's his name?
I can't remember his name. He was in. Let me see. It's in Dexter.
And he's
is his name Chris?
Chris?
Mark Pellegrino.
Oh, Mark. Yeah,
Mark
Pellegrino. Yeah.
Mark Pellegrino.
Going back a little bit, for me, not Allison Brie. That's the good one. Brie Larson. Like, the thing I don't understand about Brie Larson is, like, I mean, this is all subjective, but she's very plain looking to me. Like, she's not. She doesn't strike me as like the typical actress type.
She needs to smile more.
But just like she's incredibly plain looking. She's not striking in any way. Her acting, like, and that's things like, because none of it's terrible. I'm not like, this isn't all like shitting on her. Like, she's not like the worst thing ever. But like, I just don't understand her fame, just in the sense of like, I don't see what's special about her. You know, like.
Well, I've heard she was a good actor in the thing, because the only thing I've really seen her in has been Marvel stuff.
I don't think you've noticed, Flip, that current day casting is supposed to be perfectly nondescript and not special. Like,
I guess so.
Like the actresses can't be blue. Like, look at Rey in Star Wars and all that sort of stuff.
I guess that's. Yeah, no, I was gonna say, because she reminds me a lot of Rey, where it's like there's just nothing there. Because like, you know, because you think about like, you know, because like Meryl Streep isn't classically pretty to most people, but she's striking. But on top of that, she has incredible acting talent, and so you're happy to see her do anything, just to see somebody do something well. But like,
I don't know if because this guy's totally based. This guy's totally one of the only people in Hollywood who's like totally based.
He called himself a radical capitalist.
I don't know. There's a lot more people in Hollywood that are.
Oh yeah, they just don't say it out loud. Well, Richard Dreyfuss has been pretty.
Yeah, Dreyfuss has been coming out.
Was Dreyfuss the one that was
Rob Schneider
that was talking about like free Taiwan in the 90s forever?
He was talking about what?
Was it Richard Dreyfuss that was talking forever in the 90s about free Taiwan or whatever?
Free Tibet or Free Taiwan or both? Was he?
I thought it was Taiwan. It might have been.
It was Taiwan. I think you're right. Yeah.
Taiwan.
No, it was Richard Gere. Richard Gere was.
Oh, that was Free Tibet.
That was Free Tibet.
That's because he's a Buddhist and thinks.
So let me tie this all
are good.
All the way around here. So here's Mark Pellegrino, the guy playing the judge, right there on Unsafe Space, and we've been talking with Carrie Smith a little bit. She might be coming to do some stuff with us.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
She liked my comment.
She wasn't here. Carrie Smith did.
Yeah, earlier I commented on the thing she posted.
Unsafe Space. I'm Carter Laren.
On this one, I thought she was on there.
Not you, Carter.
Listening to her is really funny because, like,
they keep you from
just the whole Christian thing is fascinating. Because they're angled, because like most people don't go back. She's somebody that went back, and that's interesting. But sorry, I'm derailing.
No, you're not. The Signal's production. This is a pretty good thing too. It's got some different stuff. But Carrie Smith was on Unsafe Space, but they had fallen out. But yeah, that's crazy. Mark Pellegrino. I don't know if he would have been a right cast for the judge though. The judge is supposed to be he's supposed to be almost like 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
It's
well,
enormous.
who do you cast for that then?
Well, it better be cast right or they're canceled. He's got to be a big white guy, a big white, muscly, completely shaven guy. And as somebody who identifies as that, they better cast it right or they're canceled.
They better
Well, I don't know
they better
about you
cast somebody who
guys.
actually kills children.
I mean, I don't know about you guys because, like, I can only ever relate to characters that share my immutable characteristics.
Yeah.
It's literally the only way I can feel any kind of empathy or connection to anything or anyone.
Yeah. Tommy was that to cast Tommy Wiseau as the judge? And Tim Robbins could play the judge. I mean, he's tall enough. He could do it if like you shaved him up and made him like intimidating. What's his name who played
I don't know what the judge
the dude
is. I
from
don't
Full
know
Metal
comic
Jacket
book world.
So the judge is
Blood Meridian.
the
It's
most
not comic
horrific
book.
character in history in
Yeah,
Cormac
he's-
McCarthy stuff, and everybody here should get into Cormac
what's
McCarthy
Cormac
stuff. We just
McCarthy
lost.
stuff?
We just lost Cormac McCarthy. He just passed
Oh, did
away.
he
He was
die?
the last
Oh.
great frontier writer, as a bunch of people say, talking about frontier stuff. And Blood Meridian is a book about like the post-Mexican American War. This real gang called the Glanton Gang, although the characters he invented are invented up. There's one person who's real, but they were paid to go all over the Southwest and north of Mexico to get scalps of different Indians and people who were still kind of out there because it was a bit of a three-way war and stuff. And so they got
What,
paid.
Is this like turn of the 20th, 19th century?
Like 1880s type stuff and sort of the
So
end
late
of the
19th
frontier
century?
stuff. Anyway,
Well,
it's the most
oh.
bloody because after a while they obviously figure out that they can start getting money for any scalp they scalp, right? And and it's,
they didn't have a test.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I don't see any.
Hey, this guy's just an Irish dude from New York. Come on.
I guess if the scalp has red hair growing out of it, that might tip them off. but
Yeah.
I don't know.
This
so
one's got earrings.
the judge is like the most horrific character in all of like if you
He's like the Joker on steroids. He's
people talk about like all their movies got to be nerfed. If
So
you
wait,
want something
Blood
to not be
Meridian,
nerfed, go read freaking Blood Meridian and
Is this
be
a novel
traumatized
or
for a year
series of
for fun.
novels?
It's
a
one
novel.
single novel.
It's a single novel? And when
yeah.
would this is all news to me, clearly. Sorry.
He's the guy who
I'll be
wrote
an
No Country.
expository
Have you
guy.
seen No Country for Old Men?
Yeah. No, I like that.
So that's he wrote it, and that Anton
Wow.
Chigurh comes from his mind. Think of how evil Anton Chigurh is. The judge is that on crack.
He's
right?
like, and he's also just a terrifying visual because he's massively tall and kind of fat, and he doesn't have hair anywhere on his body.
Yeah, and he's out, but on top of it, so they're out in the middle of this wilderness, and they're going around just getting scalps and stuff. But then he has like all these expectations of the people in the gang to be as bad or as wild as he is, right? But he's also just like brilliant. Like he plays the fiddle, he dances, he knows every language. He takes
He's
he
evil
writes
Sherlock Holmes.
He's evil Sherlock Holmes. So it's like he's the
He's
a lot of
Sherlock
people
Holmes.
like think of him as like just the
Hey,
most
my
evil, horrific character. Some people say that he's technically the devil or some sort of genie.
Even
or
worse
something
than
like
the Jew sniper in Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. This is why we're saying like you can't film this because everybody keeps trying to get the stuff for it. James Franco has the rights for it now, but he can like follow the story of all these people who tried to get rights for it. You can't film the stuff the judge does. Like I don't know how you can put that on the film.
It sounds
And
like it's illegal to read it.
the ending, I won't spoil it for you, but like they can't do it. They can't make it ever. There's no way.
Well, there's that legendary thing in Stephen King's The It, which I've never read. I saw the TV movie, but it was cut out of the TV movie for obvious reasons. But I know. I mean, I won't even say it because of fucking YouTube rules. But on Red Letter Media, when they talk about it, they talk about it. And it's one of those things where, like, and I've talked to people who've read it, and I'm like, "That's in there." And they're like, "Yeah, that's in there."
Yeah.
This is something like asking about who could play him, and this is who I was thinking of because he plays a
Yeah,
Kingpin,
he
and he
was
does a good
great.
job of Kingpin. Although I know somebody who is like an actual fan of the comics, and he just struggled that he wasn't formidable enough either, like physically. But his acting
Well, okay,
is
but
amazing as the Kingpin.
Kingpin in the comics, like I
Yeah,
would
you
come
can't
up
be
to,
that.
I would come up to his belly button, maybe.
But
Standing
that's
straight up.
basically
Was
what
Blood
the
Meridian
judge is
made
supposed to
into
look
a
like.
comics?
No.
Oh, we're talking about a different comic. Sorry.
The Kingpin is
Kingpin's
from
a character in
Daredevil.
Daredevil.
If you watch the
Oh.
series Daredevil, it's one of the good Marvel series on Netflix because it is as violent and horrific as you would imagine that stuff would actually be in real
It was
life.
actually great. I love that.
But so this is what Kingpin looks like in the comics. You know, he's freaking
Looks like Butterbean.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of technically what Judge Holden's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And but he's just supposed to be so formidable that like you can't even punch him or hit him or anything, you know, like that. But you know, he did a great job playing him, and he was freaking scary and just kind of like that sort of thing. And he'd be a good choice for
So are they talking about making this movie, or are we just?
They've been trying to make it since forever, but at the same time, there's no way they could make it and not have it be
Who
nerfed.
owns the? I wonder who owns.
James
the rights
Franco
right now.
owns the rights. That's
Oh.
what I've said a couple times. James
Sorry.
Franco actually owns them, and he's been trying to get it developed. But just like it says right here, you know, the unfilmable Blood Meridian. I mean, it's just true. There's no way you could. I'd have to give too many spoilers, and it's something y'all should read. And
I guess
they're like, no way he couldn't do it, man.
1985.
This dude's the announcer in the most longhouse show on television, the Great British Baking Show. I
All
watched
they're
that
doing
show.
is pointing out
Ridiculously
bald
long, what it
guys.
looks like.
Yeah.
It's only 337 pages. It's not like.
Yeah, I'll read it, listen to it.
It's not like
you
it.
can listen to it. You could listen to it on YouTube. Like people
It's
on
on
YouTube have
YouTube?
read it. Yeah.
Stuff from 1985 is already old enough to be public.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be public. They're not being legal, but it's read on. Like,
Yeah.
you can listen to it on YouTube. Yeah, he's the worst ever, and
Worse than Nurse Ratched.
if they can make Breaking Bad, they can make Blood Meridian. No, it's worse. Have you read Blood Meridian?
I believe you.
Bald guy from A History.
I never
of
saw A
Violence.
History of Violence. I need to
And
see
speaking
that.
of Viggo Mortensen, The Road is also Cormac
Ooh,
McCarthy.
The Road is my favorite book of his that I've read anyway. I love that book.
That, like, I feel so disconnected. Like, this is all just news.
The Cormac McCarthy should be in your life. It should be in everybody's life who's
This
thinking
photograph of
about
him is
the
pretty
end of the
astounding.
Western frontier ideal. You know, for sure.
You get to
died
know
in
him
Mexico.
best. Get to know him best if you watch the first episode of Mike Tyson Mysteries.
I have seen Mike Tyson Mysteries. That
Yeah,
show
it's
is so underrated.
I haven't seen that.
It's
one.
amazing. I love that
Is
show.
it on
He's-
Max?
Yeah, it should be either that or Hulu. I don't know. It's half and half for the Adult Swim shows.
It's because obviously, it's got Norm Macdonald, so hooray, and Norm Macdonald is golden in it. But Mike Tyson is such a great character.
He's awesome.
And as his voice acting, I don't know how much acting he's doing. He just sounds like Mike Tyson, but it really works. It's wonderful.
I gotta watch
Great
this. I didn't know it
chemistry.
was worth watching. So.
Ain't got no time
Oh
for
my god, it's
birthday.
so funny.
Yeah, that Cormac McCarthy. I think not just for that it's good and entertaining. It really is, and the death of him. He only died like 2-3 weeks ago, and
I didn't hear about that.
it really is the end of some people are saying it's kind of the end of the era. I listened to this whole podcast of different people talking about it who were down from like New Orleans area, Tennessee area where he grew up around, and it's just like this different mindset of the world about the West, Southwest, and how stuff's more centered around New Orleans, Mexico City, not centered towards New York City, and the end of they call it like frontier writers, and there's a bunch of different type of frontier writers, but he is maybe the best of and the end of an era of them. I mean, they call Faulkner kind of the same thing, like a little bit, but yeah, you got to get into.
You know what polysyndeton is? Or
Polysyndeton?
Because on this thing, there's writing style, and
what he does is he
polysynthetic.
It'll be weird listening to it. Though listening to it might be helpful, but he doesn't use grammar, and he doesn't.
This is what this says: is that he avoided punctuation and just used "and" to make sentences go on.
And then he won't do stuff like put like quotation marks and said Joe, said Jim, said Bob, said this. It'll just go, and you can get a little bit confused of who's talking when and
polysyndeton is the deliberate insertion of conjunctions into a sentence for the purpose of slowing up the rhythm of the prose so as to produce an impressively solemn note.
Yeah, and
I learned a word today and an author.
Yeah, and he's one. Let's see, when did he died? June 13th, 2023.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks ago. That's
yeah.
89.
Santa Fe. But I mean, it's just like a different edge of the world.
This picture up of him. This picture of him is some. He looks like the back cover of 3,000 vinyl albums at DI.
Are you sharing one?
That's up the. I don't know how to share. It's on his Wikipedia.
Yeah, someone's asking who's Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy.
Kathleen Kennedy's she's a real bitch. Obviously.
Yeah, she's the one who she was always there for Indiana Jones and for Star Wars. She was like George Lucas's assistant all through that or something. And when he sold off to Disney, part of why he agreed to do the deal is she was going to be in charge of it. And it was not only putting a woman in charge, it was also saying your legacy is going to be secure here with this lady right here. And that's one of the things, like if you listen to Film Threat with Chris Gore, they talk a lot about how like she was part of the thing that made George Lucas really get pissed at him because like they pulled the carpet out from under him and didn't use any of his treatments and didn't use any of his stuff. And she changed it into feminist Star Wars, whatever. Lucas is overrated. I actually do agree with that a ton. I even the stuff that kind of came out good in Star Wars, like I think he's a good idea guy, but I think like the carry out guy, like some of the reasons those other Star Wars things, it's like might be one of those cases where it was better that there was studio intervention. Does that make sense? Like the studio helped him cut it down and helped him make it better and right. And
I'd argue that. Sorry, I'd catch up.
No, go ahead.
But I'd argue that it's not so much that Lucas is overrated. It's just that the idea that we had of them in our heads when we were kids versus how reality turned out, I think are just so different. Because like it's kind of the same thing like I had like with the Beatles, and I have the same thing. It was like when I was a kid, I thought like the Beatles and George Lucas, like they were masterminds and they carefully plotted out every detail. And then like as an adult, I learned like, oh no, they were smashing it together. They were fighting all the time. There was all kinds of creative conflict. Like the thing that they did is like they were talented and they worked relentlessly. Like, and that's the things they're good at. Like, and George Lucas is good at the things he's good at. Just he's not great at a lot of aspects.
He's not good at making it. Like if he has full control of making a full film, it goes bad.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
He needs help to get a film out right, but he's a good idea.
Again,
man.
like I think watch the Plinkett reviews and that pretty well tell that's everything you need to know about George Lucas. I think it is pretty well hashed out in that.
Well, to bring it all the way back around, because we started on Indiana Jones and him trying to take his anger out on the cultist feminist Temple of Doom, and then
that's
the
funny. I never
coming
knew
back
all that
and
stuff.
getting him in the end. Every single one of his, Indiana Jones has been cucked, and Star Wars has been cucked, and now, like Jared said, we gotta watch American Graffiti get cucked, and then Howard the Duck got to get cucked.
Yeah.
That one kind of.
Maybe George Lucas is holding on to that. Because he talks about
it's Marvel.
That was Lucasfilm.
Yeah, that's George Lucas, but it's a Marvel comic book.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, because that's one of those things where it's like, George Lucas is like, oh, I'm just going to make my own movies now. It's like, well, okay, do it, fucker. You're not doing anything. Like
And to tie that-
Coppola sold his wine company and started making him movies, and he's like in his 80s.
To tie
He's a
that all back
billionaire
around
now.
too, is we mentioned National Geographic going down, and I said that was my first Mormon porn. That's true. It's the first time I saw some naked ladies, and one of the first time I saw
Yeah.
boobs were duck boobs in Howard the Duck. This is where you come across that stuff as a young Mormon kid, man. The duck boobs in Howard the Duck was some of the first boobs I ever saw.
Yeah, my grandma had HBO, but didn't know that she had it, so that's how I saw boobs. It was Eyes Wide Shut, so
Oh, I still have not seen that movie.
I mean, I haven't
I love-
seen it since I was like
You haven't seen that?
5, so
We're coming back around to Kubrick stuff. I mean,
yeah.
No, that's one that's a big hole
Much-
because I've never
that
seen it.
movie that, you know,
It's funny is it because the reason I haven't seen it, the main reason is that it came out in that like 6 month movement, 6 month period of ultra holiness I had before I went on my mission, where I actually cut out all the R-rated. Because before that, I was watching all kinds, Shawshank Redemption. I even remember
one of my
with that,
favorites.
like when my mom signed me up for the, we were at the Hollywood Video, and mom's signing the kids up, and they're like, do you want your kid to be able to rent R-rated movies? And I literally said like, well, stuff like Shawshank Redemption, and my mom's like, okay. So
I know.
Yeah.
Man, I had to sneak to see my first movies. You want to know what one of my first R-rated movies was? And my friends and I got a hold of it from this other guy's house. And we're like, we're going to go see this, and there's going to be nudity, and it's going to be so whoa. And it was A Fish Called Wanda.
I saw
I
so
grew
many
up-
movies on my mission that I wasn't supposed to see. And some of them, I saw the South Park movie. I saw Fight Club. I saw The Matrix. And another movie that we watched that we were not allowed to watch, and we watched anyway, that came out that summer was God's Army. So that was one we had to watch illicitly for bizarre mission reasons.
On the mission, you couldn't watch that one like normal?
It came so like I was in a place where it was actually playing in theaters. Like there's enough Mormons in Northern California that they had screenings, but like they came out and said like, nope, you can't watch this. And like my district leader, like we watched it. He got a copy. He borrowed a copy of it from a member, and for a district meeting, instead of a district meeting, that's what we did. We watched that, and we knew we weren't supposed to, but everybody was kind of the attitude of like, why? Like, for one thing, everyone has watched this. Every member we run into asks us if we've seen it because they all went to see it. So yeah, we watched it on the library VCR TV combo. It was the same one that we watched South Park on.
So
just not in the church. We just took it home.
Oh my gosh! I just looked up the Howard the Duck boobs. Don't look them up. On my mission, the Star Wars Episode 1 came out while I was out there, and a zone that did a really good job got to go see it, and that wasn't my zone, so I didn't get to go see it.
What the hell? I feel like I went on my mission at the apex of strictness.
I don't know. It was how it was for me.
Because I'm like, you're
Yours
talking.
was strict, Kevin. My first
Flip's over here
president
talking
was
about
chill,
how
my
like
second was strict.
And like he's like, I watched movies that we weren't even supposed to watch. What movies could you watch? I could watch anything.
The church library.
My first
That was
president
the rule. We were allowed to watch the church library.
let us listen to music on P days, and then he would give let people go see G-rated movies if a zone did good for certain things, and that would have to be on a P day, and
He
it would
would
have to just
reward
be
you
some,
with sin.
Yeah, he'd reward us with sin, and then he did it with the Star Wars Episode 1 for some people.
Oh
But
my hell.
he was only my first 7.
Yeah, I just
7
did
months,
it
and then the
anyway
second
and
guy
felt
was
bad about
strict.
it.
But the first guy wouldn't let us leave our areas, and the second guy said, "None of that crap, but on your PDs you can go where you want." So then we could go like check out all the stuff all over Mexico, in Mexico City, and that was in a way that was better than seeing stupid movies.
When I arrived, my mission president had been in for 3 months, and I landed in a mission field where all of the veterans were pissed off because they really liked the guy before, and my guy, the new guy, apparently came in and like just clamped down. and
the
everybody
cycle
was
that they
really
have.
bitter
Straight
and
lax,
pissed off.
straight lax. They always.
Wait, look at this.
Yeah, it goes in cycles. But the thing is, like, because I
Everybody's-
mean, I've told it, like, I can tell you the time. Part of the reason with my mission, I think, was made it difficult, and why leadership matters is that because, like, I can remember the moment that my faith in priesthood authority went puff. Was in a meeting with my mission president, where, like, first it was like this gigantic thing where my companion was completely nuts and breaking things and throwing things and never leaving the house and packing up to go home. It was just a nightmare. And it did eventually go home. And, like, my mission president, God bless him, was a jackass and giving me no help. And so, you know, and like I remember getting frustrated and being like, President, I can't control how people react. And he says, maybe that's your problem, Elder Johnson. I'm like, I need to learn to control how people react. Like, this is word for word the conversation, he said, and he just smiled and nodded. And I'm like, okay, let's pray, we're done. And then, so, like, right there, I was like, okay, what the fuck? Like, this guy is supposed to help me, and he's got no good answers for what it was for me, an intractable situation that was making me insane. But then immediately after that, like, I asked him, because I had heard about his sports car. He had a BMW, and people, there was rumors about it. And they said, like, if you're ever happen to be in the mission home, go to the garage, you'll see he's got his fucking sports car. His Fetchin A sports car. And you can go see it. And I saw it. I went and put my fucking eyes on it. He had a sports car. So, like, at the end of this interview that went nowhere, after the prayer, I'm like, President, one more thing. That car, is that a 6 or an 8? He's like, what are you talking about, Elder Johnson? I'm like, is it a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder? He said, what's a cylinder, Elder Johnson? He's like smiling and nodding. I'm like, oh, I get it. You're breaking the rules and you're smiling about it. Like,
well, maybe he just didn't have a priesthood flip.
That's right.
The everybody here saying what their first R-rated movies. That's an interesting topic. Like the first time Mormons get exposed to R-rated movies. I went over to a friend's sleepover and I had no idea they were R-rated movies, and I saw Running Man and from Arnold Schwarzenegger and
those were staples in my house, man.
Yeah, you could watch them all the time.
We had Predator and Commando, and
so those ones were sprung on me. Like, I didn't know that was a rated R movie that we were watching. I had no clue. But
I couldn't even watch PG-13 movies, man.
Well, I didn't do that on purpose, and I felt bad, and I left the party. I was like, because I didn't know until halfway through. I was like, ugh. Actually, we started watching RoboCop 2, and halfway through that, I was like, wait a minute, this is probably rated R. But I'd already watched Running Man, and then I went home and felt all guilty.
Boobs would pop up on Channel 7 on public television, PBS. Because like weekends late at night, they did a lot of British stuff. And I watched, because that was my TV. I watched the late night British stuff, you know, the fucking Red Dwarf and Blackadder and all that stuff. And like in the like 90s, early 90s, there's a few times where it's like there were boobs. And I swear that I saw boobs once on BYU. It was the same thing where they were playing British stuff late night. And well, what I think it was is that they just
Romeo and Juliet.
this is the fancy British thing that everybody's doing right now. We'll put it on. And like they didn't actually review it all. And it has, you know, 3 seconds of topless lady, you know.
I'd have to get this verified. I don't know about this.
I know, because I was watching with my dad and I was shocked because and it might not have been BYU, but like I don't know. I think that might have happened.
Marty says she grew up on really good movies. We made a kid we were baptizing and throw his porn mags away. We helped and took a few peeks. I brought orchestra classical music. And my first guy, on regular days we could listen to Yanni, and so that's where I got all my Yanni experience. Was
Enya. I listened to a lot of Enya.
We weren't meant to be allowed to leave the area, but we did anyway. Where did you all serve missions? I served in Mexico City, and Jared was in very South Brazil. Flip was in California. Name the 80s movie. California.
I don't know that one.
That's the Nintendo movie, The Wizard. The little kid's obsessed with California. And
Jenny Lewis, who would have guessed that she would grow up to be a real good singer lady?
And Kevin.
I was South Carolina.
South Carolina. And Kevin's got a kid going to
So I win the boringest place to go game, sure.
Kevin's got a kid who's on mission house arrest right now. You do the MTC at home, and
wait, what?
His oldest son's at home on a mission right now.
MTC at home?
Yeah.
his first
Like
week.
What?
Week.
That's what my nephew did too.
I,
Still doing it.
I
Started
feel
from
so
COVID.
old right now because I just want to be like, what kind of pansy ass shit is this? No, you gotta go
Kevin
to
and I
the
were
prison
talking
in
about it.
Provo. You gotta do the whole getting naked with 400 other dudes in the
There's
Tree
some
of Life
stuff
showers.
about it where it's like, in a weird way, that was better to like just get a cut off and cut you off
Like,
from the world.
I mean, that's things like it was terrible, but like I learned a lot of really
a
big
different
life
world,
lessons going to the MTC. Like I
Yeah.
hated every second of it, and I wanted nothing but to get out. But
It's
like,
a coming of age, man. You got to go through it. And then now they can like phone message or FaceTime with the family like once a week or whatever, and they're on Facebook.
yeah, we
or
weren't allowed to
something.
say the word email when I was there, even though everybody had computers.
Yeah, they weren't quite coming up yet, but I mean, they were there, but
I don't think.
people
Well,
weren't really emailing.
I just don't think they got any choice. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's just like,
Oh, yeah.
the technology's too ubiquitous now.
No, we found. I mean, obviously, because one of our big workarounds is that we would just buy phone cards from Walmart and call each other or call home or call people at home, and just get around. And it's like I'm sure they must have known because they could get the phone records, so they could tell that you're dialing to a phone card number. But I mean, if they were looking, they never like busted us because I guess that would. I don't know.
It was too tough.
Anyway.
It was too tough on my mission to even write home or call home back at that
And
time.
then the other thing that
there was no good way to call. There was no good way to write. And
there's one thing I know
letters would take forever.
I never did because I'm like, there's breaking mission rules and then there's felonies. And one thing I never did was I think they called it pulling the 9 because we all drove like those I think it was Toyota Corollas or the like Chevy rebadge equivalent.
You do this stuff to
they
save
tracked
mileage.
our miles. Yeah,
Kevin
and
was telling me about this.
Yeah, if you pull the particular fuse,
We didn't
the
have
entire
cars,
dash,
remember?
including the odometer, because the digital odometer wouldn't work anymore, and it wouldn't count miles. And then you could go and actually use your car for something and not get in trouble with the church. The only problem is it's like a felony to fucking mess with.
It's
that
a
thing.
felony.
I don't know. I think it's a serious crime.
So this was a big deal on ours, and I became zone leader, and my companion, one of my favorite companions, and absolutely
it's a third-degree
hilarious.
felony. Sorry.
So he's like, okay, I'm gonna teach you something. This actually comes down through mission royalty all the way through. He pulls out this lineage, of mission
man, his son
royalty
begat
of all
for
the
sure, man. His
APs.
son
Yeah,
begat.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And he's like, okay, so what you do is we kick the car up to like 70 miles an hour, and then you throw it in neutral and turn the car off. Now we were in Bennettsville, South Carolina, which our church was in Chapin, South Carolina, actually the hometown of Dizzy Gillespie. Okay. It's about I think it was about like 10 miles maybe to the church. And on the way, the stretch of road, you'd have like there was like 2 or 3 big hills. And so we'd kick it up, to 70 miles an hour, crest that hill and just coast for probably like 2 miles. And we were able to totally save on our miles, So I was like, this is great. We can go and visit all the people in the farther areas of our area or farther parts of our area, and all this stuff. And I actually got busted. I actually got pulled over by a cop one time doing it. And then my next companion came in and he made me feel totally like the worst person on the planet for doing this. And so I quit doing it, The thing that's funniest is that later on in the mission, I was probably 20 months out or something like that. And this companion of mine, he had become the mission fleet coordinator. And we're in a zone conference, and he gets up. In zone conference.
That's the most powerful job in the missionary job world.
Yep,
that guy is king.
Yep. So he's up there. He gets up. And he's like, "All right, elders and sisters, we have a problem in the mission. Oh, by the way, when he taught it to me, we called it the trick, just as a funny side note. So he gets up and he's like, We've got a problem in the mission with those with cars doing what we call coasting. And he's like, where people will turn off the missionaries will turn off the car and
Explains how to
coast.
do it.
Yeah, he explains how to do it. He's like, we need you to understand that this is actually a federal offense, stuff. And I'm just sitting up there freaking laughing because he's the one who actually taught me how to do it. Anyway, it was pretty funny. But
yeah, people like from Paradise, California, that town that burned to the ground a couple years back. Like, there's a lot of people that would like go up there and then come back down to Oroville, which is all downhill, and they would do that coasting thing. But like, it's incredibly dangerous because you have no brakes or steering. Like the power brakes and steering are switched off, and so they would be like just strong arming it down, because it's kind of windy road. But you save 10 miles. But the thing is, like you mentioned, it wasn't like we wanted the miles just to go screw off. Like a lot of times it was like we like to, like, we have this contact, but like they are 18 miles out of town in our area, but we don't have the miles to do it.
We didn't have cars in Mexico City, and we did not want them. We didn't want to be driving
hell
around
no.
there.
Oh, I'm sure you wouldn't want one there. But like, we were in freaking, like I say, like my mission felt like going to Sandy, but with slightly fewer Mormons.
Christopher says his first movie was It. That was made for TV, wasn't it? The first Stephen King's It.
It was pretty. I think, I don't know. It's been a long time.
It was made for television.
Famously bad. No, I just mean
Savvy D says the Horn Dog Dirty movie was Revenge of the Nerds. I heard about Revenge of the Nerds from my friends, and it's like, I gotta get my hands on this Revenge of the Nerds, and I never got my hands on that Revenge of the Nerds. But actually, I don't think I've ever seen it. I should go watch it.
I know I saw him, but I don't remember anything of him.
Keeping Up Appearances with Blackadder. I used to watch that one too. Enya, like a DMT trip. Where in California? He's born outside of San Jose.
It was Roseville, which is like the northern suburbs of Sacramento was like the southern border of our mission, and then it stretched almost up to the Oregon border, but not quite. Like all the cool stuff in our mission were places that are present. Like we used to be allowed to go there under the old regime. That was one of the reasons why everybody was pissed off. But he was like, no, there's no going anywhere for any reason that I don't say, even stuff in our mission. But there was Shasta. There was a place called Feather Falls that was really just gorgeous. There was some neat stuff, but the vast majority of the mission was either like suburbs of California or the northern half of the southern of Sacramento River Valley, which they call the armpit of California. It's a good name. It was hot and flat and brown and Republican and farms. And there you go. And a couple of college towns. And Mormons. Like everywhere I went, I ran into like fourth cousins. Like in Chico, there's like Watt Avenue, and there's like businesses named after the Watts, and they're all like my fourth cousins.
The number of missionaries going out these days is insane. Savvy said he went to Southern California. There is some sort of announcement that they upped it, and they just changed the Preach My Gospel book. I don't know why I've never listened to Enya on a DMT trip. I would have imagined you would have. I am kind of jealous of the mission experience. Do not be. There was a lot learned from it. There was a lot cool from it. But dang, it was tough. That was tough, man. That was hard. And like somebody was saying on the Lobsters that they had PTSD from being ex-Mormon and stuff like that. And I'm like, shut up. But I think that is still kind of there from the mission. Like I still will have dreams about being on the mission. I just had one about, I think this week, and that's but that I think that had more to do with just number one, suddenly being in a weird, wild place. I was telling Kevin just the other week that like a year and a half into my mission, I'd be like in somebody's backyard. There was a mariachi playing and there was a bunch of people around or something. And I stopped and went, I'm in freaking Mexico. Like, how did this happen? I was a year and a half into it. And I just trip out. They're like, what is going on here? Why am I here? And, but the grind is what was hard about it, man. The grind is a grind. Like every single day, no rest once. That is the grind of grinds.
But your grind was the opposite of our grind, which is like, because we spent a lot of days just in the house because there's just nothing to do. Like my first area We knocked on every eligible door. We got all of them.
I did that in one of my areas of it. We still went back out and did it, and it always had been. But some of my areas in Mexico City were the size of Salt Lake Community College campus. You know, but there'd be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people right in there. You know, maybe a million.
The issue in my mission particularly was that there wasn't anybody who didn't already have an opinion about Mormons. Like, it was saturated.
The stuff where we were was picked over. It was picked over and burnt over too. But there was just so many people and so many new ones you talk to, they'd all take you in. But at the same time, like we were, because there was nowhere to drive, there was no space between stuff. It was like you go out your door, your area is the size of Salt Lake Community Campus, but there's a million people there. So there's somebody new to talk to every second. And so on my mission, it was 2 years freaking straight. Up at 6, out the door at 9, coming in the door at 9.
Hell yeah.
No, not one rest. Not one rest. Not one. Not one. That's the truth. Not one time. I didn't rest one time.
Once.
Not once.
That's what we all wanted, though, because we were sitting there saying the same thing, like, because one thing we're like, well, at least we didn't go to France, but it was close. But like, we all felt like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be somewhere with some work?
Yeah, every single day there'd be. It was frustrating. It was annoying and stuff like that. But like when I said that, like we'd go to church and we'd have like 3 wards in that area because there were so many people, and so we'd sit through like hours and hours of church every Sunday. It was like this is the only rest that we get. But
General Conference was the best weekend ever.
Yeah, General Conference.
That was
one thing I like when I'm talking to non-members, because especially because I live in downtown and there's like a lot of people that move in and they're not used to Mormons. And when they say like, oh, the missionaries, we were, painting our house, and the missionaries asked if they could help, and we told them no because we don't want to do that. And I was like, no, do it. Like, totally let them. They would be so happy to paint your house because they can wear jeans and a t-shirt, and they're not going to have to do tracting for a couple of days. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to, I don't want to get preached at. I'm like, no, just tell them politely once, like, you're not really interested. But like, make sure that there's like cold drinks and snacks and work to do that isn't proselytizing, and they will love you. Like, take the help. If the missionaries want to help you, do it.
Yeah,
you're doing them a favor. We love when somebody is like, "Oh, I need all this wood chopped." We're like, "Hooray! We'll chop wood for the rest of today."
I felt like at any given moment, and I'm generally kind of a bit of an insomniac. On my mission for that 2 years of my life, at any given moment, I could have slept.
Oh yes,
for 2 straight years, and that's just different than the rest of my life because living normal life, I'll struggle sleeping, And, I don't know. It was just such a grind. And then in Mexico City, we had the different thing too of we get invited in too much and get invited to food too much.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So go and like at the end of every day, I'd be like, I'm never eating again. I'm never eating again in my life. Never again. And then tomorrow I have to eat 10 times again. And if I didn't have seconds, no te gusta? You had to eat every single place all day freaking long. And it was a nightmare. And
call me Mace.
It was a nightmare to give you some wild, insane shit food. But guess what? It'd even be worse if it was good because you were so stuffed. You're like, oh, I can't eat this amazing thing you just put in front of me. And because we just got fed all day, every day, just fed.
See, I started to wonder if it was deliberate passive aggressive thing where like they would offer us something to drink and it would be something like room temperature Kool-Aid and like it's 114 degrees outside, we're riding around on bicycles and all we want is something ice cold to drink, and they would give us tepid, sugary nightmare juice. I was like, "Is this?
I told
are
you
trying to tell us something?"
I told you about the time we were riding around about 114, and the guy gives me some vodka, right?
Truman
Did you
says
take
he
a
went to
big
Mexico
swig
and
of
the
it?
smells,
I did.
man.
I didn't know what it was. Like it was.
Is that your first time tasting liquor?
Oh no. Like me and Chris in high school, but
Kevin and I in high school drank. Yeah.
we were pretty rowdy in high school.
You're
But anyway,
hornswogglers.
yeah,
But-
he it was for the guy, you know, but I take this big huge drink off this, and I just so I drank vodka on my mission.
Did you feel it?
Oh yeah.
The smells
Did
of
you get
Mexico.
tempted to just go home? Were you immediately like, it's all a lie, I'm going home? You seem to have made it. The alcohol
Truman
didn't
Madsen
destroy
says the
you.
smells of Mexico. You guys should have smelled some of the black rivers in Mexico that we had. And outside of one of our house one time, there was like this dead lying pig carcass in the river that we had to pass by every single day.
What's the Black River?
It probably improved the smell of that river. P Day was always so nice. I mean, our P Days, and then we had a president cut into our P Days and like have us have to have our mission meeting on P Days and stuff like that. And
that was one of the biggest fights I ever got in with the zone leader.
There was Jehovah's Witnesses all over Mexico too. What was that?
We had one P Day. I just this is a fight I remember where, like, I couldn't believe what was going on, and it was obviously just a sociopathic guy on a power trip. But like the situation was like it was P Day, and we were all gonna get haircuts from Sister Clegg, because Sister Clegg had like a little hair salon in a converted chicken coop behind her home, so it was totally kosher because it was technically a business, and we were allowed to get haircuts, and we didn't need a chaperone for that, even if Mr. Clegg was in the house watching football, or whatever. And so, but like I remember getting in this fight because after Sister Clegg's, everybody was going to get haircuts. Then we were going to go play basketball. And so we'll just get in our basketball clothes now, get haircuts, and go. And the zonie's like, no, like you have to wear proselytizing clothes to get your haircut. And I just remember being in this whole thing where like we're going to the fucking chicken coop at Sister Clegg's house. Like we're not proselytizing. Are you kidding me with this? And like he fucking laid down the law. And I remember going back and putting on my goddamn shirt and tie. And because the whole thing is like we had to ride over to Sister Clegg's, get the haircut and our shirt and tie, ride home, change into P-Day clothes. And like we were losing like an hour or more of precious P-Day time because this guy was like, no, the rules say you have to wear your P-Day clothes to get things like haircut. And I was just like, and I went back and like, I guess there's 2 times in my life where I'm just totally ashamed for caving. It was that and getting the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Like in both cases, I just been like, screw you, fucking turn me into president. I'm going to go get a haircut and play basketball.
Hell yeah.
I cut my own hair.
On a mission.
I learned, but then word got out, and so I was cutting everybody else's hair too.
Yeah, we would have to use somebody and sit down. We'd end up talking to the person and probably putting them in teaching and whatever it happened. But they were always like impressed with our American hair down there and wanted to like they.
It's like a whole new hair.
Yeah. Whoa! Look at this. Yeah. So I saw somebody's first movie was Watcher in the Woods and Nightmare.
Holy crap!
Oh yeah, I remember
Is that playing anywhere? They're the Disney's too chicken shit to put that up on Disney Plus, aren't they? I've been wanting to see that since I saw in the 90s.
If it's Disney, Google. There's a way to get R-rated movies on Disney Plus.
Well, because Disney briefly in the late 70s.
Is that rated R?
I don't think so, but it was part of a thing where Disney very briefly flirted with making more adult entertainment, and then they quickly spun it off into, was it DreamWorks? I think DreamWorks was Disney's late night brand.
Made for TV.
Was it? But I just remember as a kid being genuinely creeped out by that. And I want to see if it holds up in any way.
I should watch that one. It's for sure Disney. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Huh.
Damn.
Well, anyway, so yeah, first rated R. Maybe we should go into it. We watched the Kurosawa and called me a güero. Yeah, all day long. We'd say Moreno back to him.
That's very colonialismo.
Like, you're a güero, like you're a brownie, you know. But 80s PG equals R. They were talking about that on Red Letter Media PG-13, and I didn't even think about that.
Was rated PG, I think.
Nuh-uh. Well, Temple of Doom. They brought it up on the Red Letter Media thing. And they showed all this stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute here. There is a lot of murderous death in Temple of Doom, and I didn't even realize.
Guy gets his heart ripped out.
Guy gets his heart ripped out. Guys get chewed up by crocodiles. Guys, there was a bunch of stuff I'd completely forgotten about.
Yeah, I just rewatched them for the first time since the 90s, and I was like, holy crap. You know,
Yeah.
like guy with spike through his skull.
So I guess it was almost the first movie to get the PG-13 rating, but from that point on, they gave PG-13 ratings, so they left that one PG. Why isn't China concerned about global warming? Because they already have a communist government.
Tanner.
Anyway, we're hitting up on the
You ready to go?
the 3 hours, and but we should talk more about movies and missions next time. Movies and missions. I mean, we kind of
Movies and missions.
watch the Kurosawa. Find High and Low. If anybody finds it, let us know
High and
Yeah.
Low.
where we can watch High and Low. Kurosawa. Rambo 5 better than Temple of Doom. Hard cut out. Is Rambo 5? Rambo 5 is R, right?
I have seen zero.
I think all Rambos are R. I've never
Rambo
seen one.
movies.
I've
Yeah,
seen
I've
like
seen
3 of them. I saw the most recent one. I haven't.
I got HBO is here, and I know that they had Kurosawa before, so let's just see what's on the HBO.
I watched the first episode of Family Stallone.
That's a show.
There's a reality TV show about Sylvester Stallone's family, and it's just as dumb as you
I
would
bet.
possibly think.
Why wouldn't you just watch Kyle Dunnigan?
Sylvester
doing that?
Stallone. Sylvester Stallone. Can
Why
I get a
doesn't
yo?
Yeah.
Can
Is
I
my
get a
internet
yo?
broken? I'm not getting
He
internet.
just happens
Get
to run
frustrated.
into Al Pacino in the first episode.
Nuh-uh.
Oh yeah, it was
The
just on the set of Tulsa King, and I running Al Pacino at the
Oh, this is so great.
They got subtitles for both of them.
Criterion channel, but the Criterion jumps around. Like I've seen Criterion jump over to we were just talking this week because I was telling some people about Carnival of Souls. Carnival of Souls has Old Salt Lake in it if you want to see Old Salt Lake, and you got to get it from the Criterion stuff. But like sometimes Criterion's on Prime and sometimes it goes over to Max. Like it seems like that jumps around.
I can't believe there still isn't like a.
They have their
quick,
own
easy website.
dedicated Criterion. Oh.
Oh,
Max
is it
Max
also-
definitely has some Criterion and Prime has some, and then for a while they claimed to
I don't
like
know why I
own the
can't
whole
load the
Criterion
page
series.
right now. That's completely nuts. Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah.
I learned that Kurosawa means black swamp. It turns out all those Japanese names, they sound so fun to us, but they're just like English names where there's completely boring shit like guy that lives by water.
Well, that makes more sense than what your job was. I mean, that was so capitalistic, reifying. It was capitalistic of those old people to make us reify ourselves in our jobs by calling us things like tailor and what carpenter.
They've got, it says here that it's on HBO-ness.
High and
They've
Low
got
is?
Seven Samurai, Ikiru. They've got High and Low, Yojimbo. They've got Redbeard. I haven't seen that in a long time. They got
Right.
Hidden Fortress. I need to watch this. But right now, let me click it and see if I see Toshido. Yeah, watch now on the HBO.
It wasn't there before. I know I looked for it on all the ones I had, and so now it's there.
Wow, let's get that. That's
Fun
2
fact, I
hours.
was
42
watching
minutes.
Michael Mouse fishing with a comedian, and they started talking about George Floyd, and apparently he was in a porn, and you can look it up. I haven't verified.
Yeah, I heard that.
I think I remember hearing something faint about that back in the day, but well,
They
all
got
right.
Redbeard. Alrighty. Watch
Speaking of
Kurosawa.
porn, you can watch Sylvester Stallone's first movie.
Italian Stallion.
Italian Stallion. Yeah. All right. Let's call it good. I gotta go walk, shall we?
Alrighty.
All right.
Later.
Peace out.
Have a good one, out.